The ocean holds countless secrets, vessels lost to storms, ships swallowed by the depths, and sailors who never returned. But some shipwrecks carry more than the weight of their cargo or the tragedies of the sea. Along the U.S. coastline, divers, fishermen, and even coastal hikers have reported ghostly lights bobbing near wrecks. Phantom cries carried on the wind, and shadowy figures glimpsed among the broken timbers beneath the waves. Tonight, we explore 25 of the most haunted shipwrecks off the U.S. coast, where the restless spirits of sailors, passengers, and even lost souls linger, reminding us that the sea never forgets. The SS Republic, a once-proud steamship that met its tragic end in a hurricane off the Atlantic coast of Georgia, has long been the focus of maritime legend and ghostly lore. The ship, which sank in the mid-19th century during a violent storm, took with it not only cargo and crew, but also countless stories of lives lost at sea. Today, divers and maritime historians alike describe the wreck as more than just a sunken vessel. It is a place where the boundary between the living and the spectral seems disturbingly thin. Divers exploring the wreck of the SS Republic report a unique, unsettling atmosphere that begins the moment they approach the site. Even on calm days, the waters around the wreck are often described as unnaturally cold, with sudden temperature drops that cannot be accounted for by currents or depth. These cold spots seem to cluster around key areas of the wreck, particularly near the bow and stern, where the ship's structures have collapsed and twisted into the sand. Experienced divers often note that the chill is accompanied by a heavy, almost tangible sense of presence, as if unseen eyes are watching their movements from the shadows of the wreckage. Underwater lights often reveal phenomena that defy logical explanation. Divers frequently report seeing flickering, ghostly lights hovering near the ship's remains. These lights appear to drift in and out of view, sometimes illuminating sections of the wreck that are otherwise shrouded in darkness. The shapes of the lights are inconsistent, sometimes small orbs, sometimes elongated glows that seem to follow the contours of the sunken ship. Cameras often fail to capture these occurrences clearly, either rendering them as faint blurs or making them disappear entirely upon review, leaving divers with only their memories of the spectral glow. Perhaps the most unnerving experiences involve shadowy figures glimpsed among the wreckage. Divers describe fleeting shapes moving through the twisted metal and wooden beams of the ship, figures that appear humanoid, yet somehow insubstantial. Some witnesses insist they have seen crewmen from the Republic's final voyage, dressed in period clothing, performing tasks as if the ship had never sunk. Others report seeing more abstract forms, shadowy presences, that dart from one section of the wreck to another, vanishing when approached. These figures are often accompanied by sudden changes in light and temperature, and divers describe a heavy, almost suffocating sensation whenever they linger near them. The wreck itself seems to generate an almost magnetic pull on those exploring it. Divers frequently report feelings of disorientation, as if the layout of the ship shifts beneath them. Hallways and corridors, partially collapsed or filled with silt, sometimes seem longer or narrower than they should be, and divers have admitted to retracing the same sections multiple times, unsure if they are moving forward or circling back. The disorienting nature of the wreck, combined with the chilling presence and ghostly lights, contributes to an overall feeling of being inside a space suspended between the living world and the afterlife. The soundscape of the SS Republic's underwater graveyard adds another layer of unease. Though the ocean is naturally muffled at depth, divers occasionally report hearing faint, indistinct voices. These sounds are often described as calls or murmurs in languages that may have been spoken aboard the ship in its operational days, or as cries of distress that rise from the wreck itself. Even in the absence of strong currents or mechanical interference, these noises seem to echo directly from the wreckage, moving through the water in a way that feels deliberate, almost sentient. The combination of these sounds with the ghostly visual phenomena creates an immersive, deeply unsettling experience that lingers long after the dive ends. Artifacts recovered near the wreck have added fuel to the legend surrounding it. Items such as coins, personal belongings, and fragments of the ship's fittings are occasionally found lying near the wreck. sometimes in places that seem improbable, given the known state of the ship. Divers recount finding objects that shift position or seem to disappear and reappear in different locations, even when items are carefully documented and mapped. Returning to the same spots often yields new anomalies, reinforcing the idea that the SS Republic continues to exist in a space where normal rules do not apply. Maritime historians and paranormal investigators have attempted to rationalize these experiences. Some suggest that the wreck's notoriety and the human imagination contribute to heightened perceptions of the spectral. Others posit that residual energy from the trauma of the ship as sinking might manifest as unusual underwater phenomena. Yet, the consistency and specificity of the reports across decades of divers and researchers suggest that there is more at work than simple suggestion. Experienced divers, with years of deep-water experience and little inclination toward fanciful thinking, consistently describe similar phenomena. Ghostly lights, shadowy figures, cold spots, and the sense of being observed. Local lore has embraced these stories, and the SS Republic has become a destination for adventurous divers seeking both history and the inexplicable. Legends tell of the captain and crew still performing their final duties, trapped in a loop of the storm that ended their lives. Some say that during particularly calm nights, the lights from the wreck can be seen from the surface, shimmering like lanterns under the waves, guiding the lost souls home or warning the living to stay away. Despite the dangers of deep-sea diving and the complexities of exploring a partially collapsed wreck, divers continue to return, drawn by the combination of history, mystery, and fear. For those who descend into the murky waters around the SS Republic, the experience is unforgettable. The cold, the shadows, the whispers, and the spectral lights leave an impression that lingers far beyond the dive. A haunting reminder of the lives lost and the secrets still held by the Atlantic depths. The SS Republic is more than a shipwreck. It is a repository of memories, tragedy, and perhaps something beyond understanding. Shadowy figures drift through its remains. Phantom lights glow in the darkness, and unexplained chills ripple through the surrounding waters. For those who venture close, it is impossible to deny the sense of presence, the feeling that the souls of the Republic's lost crew still linger endlessly, performing the duties they were cut short in completing, forever haunting the Atlantic waters off Georgia's coast. The USS Arizona, resting silently beneath the waters of Pearl Harbor in Hawaii, is not just a memorial to the sailors who lost their lives during the infamous attack on December 7, 1941. For many visitors, it is also a place where the boundary between the past and present seems unnervingly thin, where the echoes of history are accompanied by experiences that defy explanation. Over the decades, reports of paranormal activity have surfaced from both casual tourists and dedicated researchers, painting a chilling picture of a site haunted not just by memory, but by something that feels alive and immediate. Those who approach the USS Arizona Memorial often speak first of the unusual atmosphere that pervades the area. Even on clear, sunny days, the air above the sunken battleship carries a weight that is almost tangible. Some visitors describe sudden chills, inexplicable gusts of wind, or mists rising from the water in patches that appear to move independently of the breeze. These phenomena are particularly concentrated near the sections of the hull where the ship rests in the shallow waters, and some suggest that the spirits of the sailors may linger near the very spots where they perished, tied to the vessel and the final moments of their lives. Phantom figures are among the most commonly reported occurrences. Observers on the memorial deck often speak of fleeting glimpses of sailors walking along the sunken deck or standing at the railings as if keeping watch. These figures are usually dressed in period-appropriate Navy uniforms, their features sometimes visible, sometimes obscured by the mist or shadows. Witnesses have described seeing sailors performing tasks they would have carried out in life-checking equipment, standing at attention, or huddled in conversation only, to have them vanish the moment they are approached or fully observed. The sense is not of trick photography or imagination, but of presences bound to the Arizona itself, continuing the routines that were interrupted from nearly a century ago. In addition to visual manifestations, The site is reportedly alive with sound. Visitors have recounted hearing the echoes of shouting, the clamor of orders being barked across the deck, and even the distant, muffled booms of explosions that mimic the chaos of the attack. These sounds often appear to emanate directly from the sunken ship rather than the surrounding waters, creating a disconcerting effect that can make the past feel startlingly present. Some divers and researchers claim that audio recordings have occasionally captured these noises, though playback is inconsistent, and many of the sounds are faint or indistinct, leaving the mind to fill in the terrifying gaps. The water itself seems to possess a strange, almost sentient quality. Divers near the wreck report cold spots that appear and disappear without pattern, currents that shift unexpectedly, and an overwhelming sense of being watched from beneath. Some describe feeling as if unseen hands brush against their suits or gear, or that the water itself carries a subtle pressure, almost as though the spirits of the lost sailors are interacting with the living. These sensations are strongest near the remains of the Arizona's gun turrets and superstructure, suggesting that specific areas of trauma and loss resonate more strongly than others. Onshore visitors, too, have described experiences that blur the line between memory and haunting. People have reported glimpsing figures on the surface of the water, even though the sunken ship remains submerged. Shadows pass along the Memorial S walkways or along the railings as if unseen eyes are tracking their movements. Photographs taken on calm days sometimes reveal faint, unexplained shapes in reflections or on the water's surface. Shapes that cannot be attributed to lighting, waves, or photographic errors. These occurrences are often accompanied by a deep, unshakable feeling of sorrow, an emotional weight that mirrors the tragedy of the attack itself. Even staff and historians who spend years at the site report strange phenomena. Some recount doors opening or closing on the memorial buildings without cause, unexplained knocks or thumps from beneath the deck, and a pervasive sense of presence in areas that are otherwise empty. Many describe a mixture of reverence and fear and understanding that they are not intruding on a mere relic of history, but on a site still occupied in some way by the souls of those lost. Paranormal investigators have attempted to document and explain these phenomena, employing underwater cameras, audio recorders, and environmental sensors, while skeptics attribute much of the activity to psychological effects, emotional intensity, or natural phenomena such as wind, water currents, or acoustic distortions. The consistency and specificity of many reports challenge purely rational explanations. Experienced divers and longtime staff report similar sights, sounds, and sensations, suggesting that the occurrences cannot be entirely dismissed as imagination or suggestion. Local legends surrounding the USS Arizona speak of sailors who continue their duties eternally bound to the ship. Some claim that on anniversaries of the attack, the apparitions are most visible, and the sounds of the attack replay faintly in the air. Others say that those who linger too long on the memorial deck sometimes feel a gentle but insistent tug, a subtle urge to leave, as though the spirits are protective of the sanctity of their final resting place. Visitors who have ventured onto the water often describe a profound sense of connection to the lost sailors, mixed with a respectful dread for the energies lingering there. The USS Arizona Memorial remains a solemn and sacred site, a place where the heroism and tragedy of history are commemorated. Yet, for those who have experienced it firsthand, it is also a haunting in the truest sense. A place where past and present converge, where the dead are not entirely gone, and where the waters above the sunken battleship serve as a mirror to both memory and something beyond understanding. Phantom figures stand watch, ghostly sounds echo across the deck, and mysterious mists rise and fall above the water, ensuring that the legacy of the USS Arizona is remembered not only in history books, but in the eerie, persistent presence of those who were lost but have never truly left. The SS Andrea Doria, once a luxurious Italian ocean liner, met its tragic end off the coast of Nantucket, Massachusetts, in 1956 after a catastrophic collision with the MS Stockholm. The disaster claimed 46 lives, leaving hundreds of survivors with memories of chaos and terror that would haunt them forever. Decades later, the wreck remains a magnet for divers and maritime enthusiasts, not only for its historical significance, but also for the persistent reports of ghostly phenomena that make the Andrea Doria one of the most infamous haunted shipwrecks in the world. Known among divers as the Mount Everest of shipwrecks due to its depth and the challenges posed by Atlantic currents. The Andrea Doria sits tilted at a precarious angle on the ocean floor. Divers exploring the hull and scattered remains of the ship often report an unsettling sensation, as if the presence of the passengers and crew still lingers in the wreckage. Many claim to see ghostly lights flickering along the hull, lights that do not emanate from their equipment and seem to follow the contours of the sunken vessel. These lights are often described as pale glows, hovering or drifting slowly, as though the spirits of the lost passengers are still moving through the corridors of the ship. The experiences reported are not limited to visual phenomena. Divers frequently recount hearing disembodied voices echoing through the cold water, voices calling out for help, repeating phrases in Italian, English, or even in muffled, indistinct murmurs. These sounds are often described as both sorrowful and urgent, a haunting reminder of the terror that unfolded during the collision and the frantic efforts to save lives. Some divers claim that even with modern audio equipment, these voices are difficult to record, fading when approached but returning when attention shifts elsewhere, as if the spirits are aware of the living intruding into their watery domain. Shadowy figures are another common occurrence. Witnesses report seeing the shapes of sailors or passengers standing among the wreckage, their forms flickering or fading like mist in the water. These figures are sometimes seen performing tasks that seem natural for the ship, steering, checking machinery, or moving through the halls as though the Andrea Doria continues its final voyage in a spectral echo of history. Divers approaching these figures describe an intense feeling of being watched, a weight of presence that is both oppressive and sorrowful, compelling them to respect the ship as both a grave and a haunted monument. Unexplained currents and sudden drops in temperature often accompany these experiences, leaving divers feeling physically affected by the presence of the spirits. Some describe chills that persist even when returning to the surface, while others feel a pressing sense of dread while near the bow or the bridge, areas where the worst of the disaster occurred. The combination of environmental hazards, the psychological impact of knowing a tragic event occurred, and the eerie phenomena reported by countless divers have cemented the Andrea Doria's reputation as one of the most haunted shipwrecks in the Atlantic. Over the years, several stories from survivors and those who have explored the wreck have circulated widely. Some divers have recounted seeing faint, flickering shadows moving quickly through the remains of the dining rooms or cabins, only to vanish when approached. Others claim to hear the distant sounds of crashing waves and panicked cries, even when the ocean around them is calm and silent. Many of these reports emphasize a pervasive sense of sadness and lingering unrest, as though the souls aboard the Andrea Doria cannot fully leave the tragedy behind. Maritime historians and paranormal enthusiasts alike have attempted to explain these phenomena. Some suggest that the combination of underwater acoustics, light refraction through currents, and the natural fears associated with deep-sea diving contribute to perceived ghostly activity. Others, however, note the consistency of sightings and the emotional intensity felt by divers as evidence that there may indeed be lingering spirits tied to the tragedy. Accounts frequently describe similar patterns, lights, voices, and figures regardless of the diver's experience level or time of day, adding credibility to the more chilling interpretations. The Andrea Doria has also gained notoriety because of its dangerous nature as a dive site. Its depth, strong currents, and deteriorating structure have claimed the lives of more than 50 divers attempting to explore it since it sank. Many of these tragedies reinforce the idea that the wreck is not just a physical hazard, but a place where the dead are restless. Tales persist of divers sensing presences before accidents, or hearing warnings in the form of whispers or unexplained noises that seem to caution them away from certain areas. Even surface observations have added to the legend. Sailors passing over the wreck have sometimes reported strange lights beneath the waves at night, and local fishermen speak of inexplicable fogs and cold patches in the water near the resting place of the Andrea Doria. These surface phenomena, combined with the underwater experiences of divers, create an unsettling sense that the ship's story has not ended with its sinking, and that the souls lost on that fateful night continue to reach out across the decades. The SS Andrea Doria remains a powerful symbol of human tragedy, engineering achievement, and maritime mystery. For those who venture into the Atlantic depths to explore the wreck, the experience is often described as more than just a dive. It is an encounter with the past, with the lives and the spirits that remain tied to the sunken ship. Ghostly lights flicker along the hull, phantom voices call through the water, and shadowy sailors continue to drift through the remains of the Andrea Doria, ensuring that the memory of the ship and its passengers is preserved not only in history but in the enduring presence of the haunted wreck beneath the waves. It is a solemn and eerie reminder that some tragedies leave more than scars on history. They leave echoes that refuse to be silenced. The SS Pharaoh, once a proud cargo ship, met a tragic fate on October 1, 2015, when it sank during Hurricane Joaquin off the coast of the Carolinas. All 33 crew members perished in the storm, leaving behind grieving families, a devastated maritime community, and a vessel that has since become one of the most haunting modern shipwrecks in U.S. history. While the loss itself was tragic, it is the eerie experiences reported around the wreck that have cemented the El Pharaoh's reputation as a site of restless spirits and unexplained phenomena. The ship, measuring nearly 790 feet long, was designed to endure rough seas. But the hurricane proved too powerful, and she went down in the deep Atlantic waters, leaving wreckage scattered across the seafloor. For divers exploring the site, the El Pharaoh is not just a technical challenge. It is a place imbued with an unmistakable sense of loss and lingering presence. Many divers report that upon descending, there is a palpable heaviness in the water, an almost tangible feeling of watching eyes and unseen company accompanying them along the hull and through the ship's remains. One of the most commonly reported phenomena is the appearance of strange lights near the wreck. Divers frequently describe small, flickering glows that seem to drift along the contours of the ship. These lights do not resemble diving equipment, and they move in ways inconsistent with natural underwater currents. Some witnesses have likened them to lanterns, as if the spirits of the crew are still patrolling the decks, performing the tasks they once carried out during their ill-fated voyage. Others report seeing the lights in clusters, as though multiple crew members are gathered together in silent vigil. The glow of these lights is often described as cold and ethereal, casting an otherworldly shimmer on the surrounding wreckage. Ghostly apparitions are another unsettling feature, reported by those who have explored the site. Divers speak of shadowy forms that appear in the water, sometimes near cabins, the bridge, or scattered cargo. These figures often vanish when approached, leaving behind only the sensation of movement or a faint echo of a human presence. Some divers have reported seeing the faint outlines of crew members in life jackets, standing as if still preparing for routine tasks. The presence of these figures is accompanied by a strong emotional charge, a feeling of sorrow, an urgency that hangs in the water, as if the spirits are replaying the final moments of the ship's demise. Unexplained sounds are also reported by those venturing near the wreck. Some divers hear faint voices calling out in muffled tones, in English and sometimes in Spanish, echoing through the deep ocean as though the crew is still trying to communicate from beneath the waves. Others report the sudden clanging of metal or the creaking of the ship's hull, sounds that cannot be attributed to currents or diving equipment. These auditory experiences often intensify near areas where the ship suffered structural failure during the hurricane, further deepening the sense that the spirits of the El Pharaoh's crew are connected to the physical scars of the wreck. Above the surface, the haunting presence of the El Pharaoh is also reported. Families of the deceased crew members often describe vivid dreams in which they see their loved ones aboard the ship, calling out from the decks or moving silently among the cargo. These dreams are frequently accompanied by feelings of urgency or warnings, as though the spirits are attempting to convey messages or simply remain present in the memories of those left behind. Some fishermen and local mariners have reported strange lights beneath the water in areas above the wreck. or cold patches on calm seas where the ship's remains lie, hinting at an ongoing interaction between the living and the lost crew. The emotional impact of diving the El Faro is undeniable. Even experienced deep-sea divers recount feelings of unease and sadness, a sense that the water holds more than just wreckage and debris. The ghostly phenomena, combined with the knowledge of the ship's tragic end, create a psychological tension that is both haunting and humbling. Divers often speak of a silent reverence that overtakes them, as though the spirits of the crew are asserting a presence that must be acknowledged with respect and caution. Maritime historians and paranormal enthusiasts have attempted to explain the activities surrounding the El Faro. Some suggest that the deep-sea environment, combined with the psychological weight of knowing the ship's tragic history, contributes to perceived apparitions and lights. However, the consistency and specificity of reports shadowy crew figures, moving lights along the deck, unexplained sounds, suggest that there may be more at play than imagination or natural underwater phenomena. The deep connection between the lost crew and the wreck itself appears to persist, leaving echoes that continue to manifest in tangible ways for those who encountered the site. The SS El Faro is more than a modern maritime disaster. It has become a haunting reminder of lives lost at sea and the mysteries that linger in the deep ocean. Ghostly lights flicker along the submerged decks. Shadowy figures drift through cabins and cargo holds, and voices echo in the cold, dark water. Families and divers alike recount experiences that suggest the crew's spirits have not departed, bound to the site of their final voyage. The haunting of the El Faro is a solemn and chilling testament to the enduring presence of those lost at sea, ensuring that the tragedy of 2015 is never forgotten and that the ship continues to navigate the realms of the living and the dead beneath the Atlantic waves. The CSS Alabama, a legendary Confederate commerce raider, met its demise off the coast of Mobile, Alabama, during the American Civil War. Built in secrecy in 1862, the ship gained notoriety for its daring raids on Union merchant vessels, earning a fearsome reputation on both sides of the conflict. Its career ended on June 19, 1864, when the USS Kearsarge intercepted the Alabama off Cherbourg, France, leading to a fierce naval engagement that ended with the Confederate ship sinking. Today, the Alabama rests beneath the Gulf waters near Mobile, and divers and maritime historians alike report that the wreck is haunted by the restless spirits of its crew. Exploring the wreck of the CSS Alabama is not simply a technical dive. It is an encounter with history, tragedy, and something far more mysterious. Divers who have visited the site recount experiences that go beyond ordinary underwater exploration. Many describe an oppressive coldness in the water, pockets of chill that appear without explanation, even in the warm currents of the Gulf. This sudden and unnatural drop in temperature seems to concentrate near the ship's remains, particularly around the area of the hull where the fiercest fighting took place. Some divers interpret these cold spots as the lingering presence of the Confederate sailors, their spirits tethered to the final moments of their ship. Ghostly figures are among the most unsettling phenomena reported at the Alabama wreck. Divers often speak of shadowy silhouettes drifting among the debris, sometimes appearing at the ship's mast, near the cannons, or along the remnants of the deck. These apparitions resemble Confederate sailors in uniform, moving with purpose as though continuing the duties they were cut short from in battle. The figures vanish when approached, leaving behind only the sense of being watched and the echo of unseen activity. Witnesses report that these sightings are not fleeting. They appear repeatedly, suggesting a residual energy that persists within the wreckage. The haunting does not end with visual phenomena. Many divers report hearing phantom sounds that are impossible to explain. The most common is the echo of cannon fire, distant and muffled, as if the Alabama is still engaged in its final battle beneath the waves. Some describe the creaking of timbers, the clanging of metal, and even the muffled shouting of men, which fades into silence when they try to locate the source. These auditory experiences are often accompanied by the sense that the wreck is alive in some spectral way. replaying fragments of its violent past for those who dare to witness it. Other eerie occurrences involve the movement of debris. Divers recount seeing objects shift as if touched by invisible hands, ropes swaying without current, and cannonballs rolling slowly across the seabed. These subtle yet inexplicable movements create an unnerving environment, making divers feel that the ship itself remembers its sinking, and that its crew spirits are still bound to the vessel. Even seasoned wreck divers describe an intense sense of vigilance when exploring the Alabama, as though the ghosts are not merely present but actively observing. The emotional impact on divers is profound. Many report feelings of sorrow, dread, and even guilt, as if the spirits of the Confederate sailors are aware of their intrusion and silently communicate their unfinished business. The combination of visual apparitions, phantom sounds, and inexplicable sensations fosters a deep respect and fear, making the Alabama wreck a location that is both historically significant and hauntingly alive. These encounters are so consistent among divers that the site has gained a reputation as one of the most haunted Civil War shipwrecks in the United States. Maritime historians and paranormal enthusiasts have attempted to rationalize these experiences. Some attribute the cold spots and sounds to natural underwater phenomena, such as shifting currents, sediment movement, or underwater acoustics. Others argue that the intense historical significance of the Alabama, combined with the dramatic loss of life, amplifies the psychological impact on divers, leading to heightened perceptions of supernatural activity. Yet, the repeated and consistent reports of shadowy figures, phantom cannon fire, and moving debris defy easy explanation. Whether psychological, environmental, or truly paranormal, the experiences at the wreck are undeniable to those who witness them. The CSS Alabama has become a site of reverence, fear, and fascination. Divers approach the wreck not merely as explorers of history, but as participants in a haunting that has endured for over a century. Phantom sailors appear along the deck and among the debris. Ghostly cannon fire echoes across the water, and cold spots chill the bones of those who descend into the Gulf's depths. These manifestations serve as reminders of the human cost of the Civil War, the tragedy of lives lost, and the lingering presence of those whose stories remain unfinished beneath the waves. Above the water, the legend continues. Maritime communities near Mobile often recount tales of sailors glimpsed in foggy evenings. Lights flickering over the Gulf where the Alabama rests, and inexplicable cold currents sweeping through boats passing above the wreck. Families of Confederate descendants sometimes speak of dreams in which the ship appears, crew members calling silently, in a sense of unfinished duty that echoes across generations. The haunting of the CSS Alabama transcends the wreck itself, becoming a story carried in the waters, the winds, and the collective memory of those who know of its legacy. In the end, the CSS Alabama is far more than a sunken Confederate raider. It is a vessel frozen in time, a repository of human emotion and maritime history, and a site where the boundary between the living and the dead seems to blur. Ghostly Confederate sailors continue to patrol the wrecked phantom cannon fire, resonates beneath the waves, and divers and locals alike are left with the chilling realization that some spirits refuse to leave forever, bound to the ship that defined their lives and deaths. The Alabama, in its quiet, submerged vigil, remains a haunting reminder of war, loss, and the mysteries that lie beneath the Gulf of Mexico. The USS Indianapolis, a Portland-class cruiser of the United States Navy, met a tragic fate during the final months of World War II. After completing a top-secret mission delivering components of the atomic bomb to Tinian Island, the ship was torpedoed by a Japanese submarine on July 30, 1945, in the Philippine Sea. The attack was swift and devastating. Within minutes, the ship sank, leaving more than 300 men dead in the initial explosion and fire. Those who survived the sinking faced an even greater horror exposure, dehydration, and shark attacks over the next 4 days, until only a fraction of the crew was rescued. Today, the wreck lies over 18,000 feet beneath the surface. But it is a site that has drawn Navy divers, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts alike. many of whom report eerie experiences that suggest the ship's tragic past has left lingering spirits. Explorations of the USS Indianapolis wreck are far from ordinary. Navy divers, who have been part of sanctioned dives, often describe inexplicable phenomena, from sudden electrical disturbances in equipment to an overwhelming sense of dread as they approach the site. Instruments fail intermittently, lights flicker, and sonar readings produce anomalies that cannot be fully explained by underwater geology or technical interference. Divers speak of these disturbances as if the ship itself resists intrusion, guarding the memory of the lives lost on that fateful night in 1945. Perhaps the most chilling reports involve ghostly figures glimpsed through the dark waters. Divers have reported seeing shapes resembling sailors drifting just beyond their lights, figures that vanish when approached or when cameras attempt to capture them. Some witnesses describe partial silhouettes, arms moving as if signaling, faces turned toward them in silent warning, but when divers swim closer, nothing is there. These apparitions are often seen near the remains of the ship's superstructure, where explosions and fire claimed so many lives. There is a haunting quality to these sightings, as though the spirits of the crew are replaying the moments before their deaths, forever trapped in the violent memory of the sinking. The auditory phenomena reported are equally unnerving. Divers recount hearing distant screams, muffled cries, or the clanging of metal echoing through the water. Some describe the sound of voices calling out names, sometimes their own, which vanish abruptly, leaving them disoriented and anxious. These sounds are often accompanied by a sudden chill in the water, localized to areas near the wreck, which seems unnatural in the surrounding deep-sea temperatures. Experienced Navy divers, trained to remain calm in extreme underwater conditions, admit that these sensations can be deeply unsettling, evoking a mix of fear and sorrow that lingers long after the dive ends. Many of the supernatural encounters are linked to moments of interaction with the ship itself. Divers report equipment malfunctions, including lights that flicker or go out completely and communications systems that fail, sometimes just as they reach critical sections of the wreck. Some have felt unseen hands brushing against their arms, or a sudden pressure change in the water, like someone or something is moving through them. These experiences are compounded by the overwhelming knowledge of the ship's history, the thousands of men who perished in its final hours, the harrowing days adrift in shark-infested waters, and the fact that so many were left to die unseen. The weight of tragedy appears to have imprinted itself on the ship, creating a lingering presence that divers cannot escape. Those who study the paranormal side of naval history suggest that the USS Indianapolis is a classic case of residual haunting, where trauma and violence leave an imprint on a location or object, replaying itself to those sensitive enough to perceive it. In this case, the deep ocean wreck acts as a reservoir of immense human suffering, with electrical anomalies, phantom figures, and eerie sounds forming the modern manifestations of that energy. Some believe that the spirits of the sailors are drawn to the site, reliving their final moments and attempting to communicate their anguish to the living. Others argue that the extremity of the environment, the crushing pressures, the darkness, and isolation intensifies human perception, creating experiences that are both psychological and supernatural. Witnesses report that the effects are not limited to the immediate proximity of the wreck. Divers have described sensations of being followed or watched during transit to and from the site, and some claim to experience nightmares or visions of the sinking long after the dive. These lingering impressions are often vivid. The chaos of explosions, sailors calling for help, and the relentless sharks that claimed so many. For many, the dive becomes more than exploration. It is a communion with history and an encounter with the spirits who never left the ship. Even on the surface, the USS Indianapolis exerts an eerie influence. Mariners report strange light anomalies above the site at night, often resembling distant flares or fleeting glows on the water. Though no physical sources can be identified, some claim that electronic devices on boats fail without explanation when directly over the wreck, reinforcing the idea that the site remains charged with residual energy. While some of these reports may be attributed to natural or technical causes, The consistency of witness accounts lends an air of credibility to claims of a haunting. The legend of the USS Indianapolis continues to grow as more divers and researchers explore the depths. The ship is not merely a sunken cruiser. It is a repository of one of the greatest maritime tragedies in American history. And, according to many witnesses, a place haunted by the souls of those who perished. Shadowy figures, phantom screams, unexplainable electrical disturbances, and localized cold spots create an experience that is both terrifying and poignant, a reminder of the immense human cost of war. Divers emerge from the depths, profoundly affected, carrying with them memories of both history and the supernatural. In the end, the USS Indianapolis is more than a shipwreck. It is a monument to lost lives, a site of deep sorrow, and a place where the line between the living and the dead seems blurred. Phantom sailors swim through the dark waters, unseen hands touch equipment, and cries echo across the deep. The spirits of the USS Indianapolis endure, a haunting reminder that some tragedies are too immense to fade, and that the echoes of history can still reach those who dare to descend into the depths of the Philippine Sea. The HMS Rose, a meticulous reconstruction of an 18th-century British warship, rests off the coast of Chesapeake Bay, Virginia, a symbol of naval history and maritime heritage. Though built to preserve the legacy of a storied past, the vessel has garnered a reputation that extends beyond its historical significance. Over the years, visitors and crew have reported inexplicable phenomena that suggest the ship is haunted by spirits of long-dead sailors. Shadowy figures on deck, disembodied voices echoing through the rigging, and lights moving without apparent source have turned the HMS Rose into a place where history and the supernatural seem to intertwine. The earliest reports of ghostly activity on the HMS Rose came shortly after it was reconstructed and launched. Crew members assigned to maintain the ship or to guide visitors along its decks began noticing strange shadows flickering across the rigging during late afternoons and at night. These shadows often appeared to move with purpose, pacing the length of the deck or climbing masts as though performing duties long forgotten. Some described seeing sailors in period attire, their faces obscured, carrying out routine tasks that had not been performed for centuries. When approached, the figures would vanish, leaving only an uneasy chill in the air and the creaking of empty timbers. Disembodied voices are another common phenomenon aboard the HMS Rose. Visitors recount hearing commands shouted across the deck, the sound of sailors' chatter, or the low murmur of coordinated work, despite the absence of anyone nearby. Occasionally, these voices seem to replay snippets of conversations in archaic English, reminiscent of orders given during the Age of Sail. Crew members who have stayed overnight aboard the ship claim that these sounds are most pronounced near the lower decks and the captain's quarters, areas historically associated with intense activity during long voyages. The voices often appear in cycles, starting faintly, then growing louder before fading into silence, leaving witnesses in a state of apprehension. Lights moving inexplicably along the rigging add to the ship's eerie reputation. Visitors have reported small glows darting between ropes and masts, appearing to float freely in midair. These lights are sometimes seen at night when the deck is empty, dancing along the sails or lingering near the bow before disappearing abruptly. Many who have tried to capture the phenomenon on cameras or smartphones describe images filled with streaks of light or faint silhouettes that vanish upon closer inspection. The effect is reminiscent of lanterns carried by unseen sailors, adding a spectral dimension to the historic vessel. Those familiar with the ship's history note that the HMS Rose, like its original counterpart, endured long voyages across treacherous waters. Life aboard a wooden warship in the 18th century was notoriously harsh, with sailors facing disease, storms, and the constant threat of conflict. Historians suggest that the hardships endured by these men, coupled with the violent and demanding nature of naval life, may have left an imprint which manifests as residual hauntings. The shadowy figures and sounds could be echoes of the past, replaying endlessly on the reconstructed deck, a reminder of the human toil that once defined the ship. Visitors often describe an emotional weight aboard the HMS Rose, a feeling that grows as they move from the bow to the stern. Some report sudden drops in temperature. Others speak of an oppressive atmosphere, as though the very air is charged with memory. Children and sensitive individuals frequently feel anxious or uneasy in certain areas, particularly near the gun deck and below the main deck. Even those who enter with skepticism find themselves questioning the reality of what they perceive, as the combination of historical ambience and unexplained activity creates a powerful psychological impression. The haunting of the HMS Rose has also inspired a range of paranormal investigations. Ghost hunters and researchers have used audio equipment, cameras, and electromagnetic sensors in an attempt to capture tangible evidence of the supernatural. Many claim to have recorded footsteps on empty decks, muffled voices, or fleeting shadows moving through their recordings. Though skeptics attribute these findings to natural causes such as creaking wood, drafts, or optical illusions, the consistency and specificity of the reports reinforce the ship's reputation as a haunted maritime site. On occasion, witnesses report interactions that feel personal. Crew members have recounted moments where they feel guided by unseen hands or nudged away from danger, as if the spirits aboard are still performing their protective duties. Others have described objects shifting slightly on their own, lanterns tilting, or ropes swinging without wind. These experiences are often subtle but undeniably unsettling, creating a connection between the present and a past long gone. The HMS Rose's hauntings are not confined to the ship itself. Some visitors claim that strange phenomena extend to the waters surrounding the vessel. Faint glimmers are seen beneath the surface at night, or ripples appear without explanation in calm waters. Occasionally, these anomalies align with sightings of apparitions or ghostly lights on deck, reinforcing the perception that the ship and its spirits are intertwined with the Chesapeake Bay itself. For historians, paranormal enthusiasts, and casual visitors alike, the HMS Rose represents a unique convergence of past and present. It is a reminder of the sacrifices of sailors, the perils of life at sea, and the lingering presence of human experience etched into the vessel's timbers. Shadowy figures pacing the deck, disembodied voices echoing across the rigging, and phantom lights drifting through the sails transform the ship into more than a museum piece. It becomes a living, breathing monument to the spirits of those who once sailed upon it. Whether these hauntings are residual echoes of history, manifestations of the imagination, or genuine supernatural occurrences, they leave a lasting impression. Those who step aboard the HMS Rose report a profound sense of reverence, fear, and awe. The ship's deck, rigging, and cabins carry memories that refuse to rest, and the sailors who lived and died aboard her continue to walk in shadow, speak in whispers, and illuminate the night with spectral lanterns. Off the coast of Chesapeake Bay, the HMS Rose stands not only as a testament to naval history, but as a haunting reminder that some spirits of the past are never truly gone. The RMS Titanic, the legendary ship of dreams, continues to capture imaginations more than a century after her tragic sinking in the North Atlantic. While the ship itself rests nearly 12,500 feet below the ocean's surface, the legacy of that fateful night has not been confined to history books or museum exhibits. Over the years, divers exploring the wreck and visitors attending U.S. exhibitions dedicated to the Titanic have reported a range of paranormal phenomena, from ghostly apparitions of passengers and crew to phantom lights and unexplained cries, suggesting that the spirits of those lost may still linger, unwilling to let go of their tragic fate. Divers who descend to the Titanic wreck have described eerie experiences that defy conventional explanation. Even in the crushing depths of the ocean, reports include seeing shadowy forms moving among the decaying hull, the silhouettes of sailors still performing their duties, and passengers walking the decks as if nothing had changed. Some divers claim to witness the flicker of lanterns or small, glowing lights hovering above certain sections of the ship, illuminating the broken railings, the torn staircases, and the remnants of once grand dining rooms. These lights often appear intermittently, only to vanish when approached. leaving divers questioning whether they have glimpsed residual energy imprinted on the wreck or something far more mysterious. One of the most haunting aspects of these encounters is the sound, or at least the perception of it. Although the Titanic lies in a near-silent environment, divers report faint echoes of voices, soft sobbing, or distant shouts carried through the water. Some claim to hear the murmurs of conversation in multiple languages, echoing the multinational passenger list aboard the ill-fated liner. Others speak of hearing crew members issuing orders. The commands carrying a mechanical precision that is both chilling and oddly familiar to those who know the ship's operational history. While skeptics suggest that such sounds may be caused by underwater acoustics or the psychological impact of deep-sea diving, the consistency of these reports across different expeditions lends them a haunting credibility. U.S.-based Titanic exhibitions, where artifacts salvaged from the wreck are displayed, also appear to carry a strange energy. Visitors often recount a sense of being watched as they examine personal belongings, silverware, or fragments of the ship's interior. Some report seeing fleeting shadows moving across the exhibition rooms, or glimpsing figures in period clothing reflected in display cases, only to vanish when they attempt a closer look. Phantom cries and whispers have been noted by both staff and visitors, particularly near sections dedicated to passengers who perished, such as those highlighting third-class accommodations or the grand staircase, which has become a focal point for stories of lingering spirits. Photographic and video evidence from exhibitions occasionally show anomalies, including orbs of light, faint silhouettes, or unexplained blurs, which some paranormal researchers interpret as manifestations of the Titanic's restless spirits. In one widely discussed case, a visitor captured a faint image of a man in Edwardian dress, standing near a lifeboat display that did not appear in any other photographs taken at the same moment. Many believe such manifestations are residual echoes of lives interrupted, memories imprinted onto objects or spaces that have now been brought ashore. The personal accounts of crew and volunteers at Titanic exhibitions further reinforce the ship's reputation for hauntings. Staff members report cold spots near certain displays, particularly where items recovered from the lower decks or third-class cabins are exhibited. Some claim to feel the brush of invisible hands, or the sudden sensation of being pulled or guided, as if unseen presences are interacting with the living. Volunteers working late hours in dimly lit galleries have shared stories of hearing distant piano music, footsteps, or muffled conversation, all seemingly emanating from empty spaces where no one else is present. These experiences are often accompanied by a feeling of overwhelming sadness or longing, suggesting that the spirits of those lost in the icy waters continue to relive their final moments. Divers and historians alike often remark on the psychological impact of being so close to the actual wreck, even without any paranormal activity. The Titanic, after all, represents not only a monumental technological achievement, but also one of the most poignant maritime tragedies in history. Yet, for those who have personally witnessed phantom lights, heard voices, or glimpsed apparitions, the phenomenon feels tangible, undeniable, and profoundly unsettling. Among the most frequently reported apparitions are figures of passengers in lifeboat attire or elegant evening dress, frozen in mid-step, or appearing to stare out across the water. These apparitions appear to act independently of human observers, moving with a fluidity and purpose that defies natural explanation. In some instances, divers report feeling watched, as though the spirits of the Titanic are aware of their presence and silently observing their intrusion. Some theories suggest that these hauntings are tied to unresolved tragedy, that the tremendous loss of life, combined with the abrupt, violent nature of the sinking, has left a residual energy that continues to resonate wherever remnants of the ship are found. The personal artifacts salvaged from the wreck, now displayed in exhibitions across the United States, may serve as conduits for this energy, maintaining a link between the living and the dead. Whether one interprets these experiences as psychological, supernatural, or a combination of both, the effect on witnesses is universally profound. In the end, the RMS Titanic, even from her watery grave, continues to command fascination, fear, and reverence. The reports of ghostly figures, disembodied voices, phantom lights, and unexplained sensations remind us that history is not just a record of events, but a repository of human experience and emotion. The Titanic's legacy, already monumental in maritime history, is made even more compelling by these haunting accounts, blurring the line between memory and spectral presence. From deep-sea divers glimpsing apparitions on the wreck to visitors feeling the lingering sadness in U.S. exhibitions, the Titanic's spirits are said to persist, a chilling reminder that the echoes of tragedy can travel far beyond the icy waters of the North Atlantic. The USS Monitor, one of the most iconic ironclad warships of the American Civil War, rests silently off the treacherous waters of Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. Launched in 1862, the Monitor was a revolutionary vessel designed to withstand cannon fire and to protect Union forces during the naval conflicts of the war. Its historic clash with the Confederate ironclad, the SS Virginia, at the Battle of Hampton Roads, has secured its place in history. Yet more than a century later, divers exploring the wreck and visitors to related exhibitions have reported unsettling phenomena: ghostly sailors walking along the deck, phantom cannon blasts, and inexplicable cold spots in the surrounding waters, suggesting that the spirits of the men who served aboard may not have entirely departed. Divers descending to the wreck of the Monitor often describe the eerie atmosphere that envelops them even before they reach the iron hull. The waters off Cape Hatteras are notorious for unpredictable currents and dense fog, adding a layer of natural menace to the sight. Many divers report sensing presences long before any visual anomalies appear. Some speak of ghostly figures moving along the deck, appearing briefly in the darkness before vanishing as they approach. These apparitions often resemble the sailors depicted in period illustrations, faces obscured by helmets, uniforms saturated in shadow, hands gripping phantom railings or weapons. Witnesses describe these figures as moving with purpose, as if performing duties left incomplete over 150 years ago. The sounds of the wreck are as unnerving as the visuals. Divers have reported hearing phantom cannon blasts and the creak of iron, as if the ship itself is shifting in the water. These noises are often accompanied by the sensation of sudden cold currents. Despite water temperatures remaining consistent at depth, some claim to feel disorienting pressure, as if the surrounding sea has become alive with residual energy from the ship's violent history. The combination of visual, auditory, and tactile phenomena creates an atmosphere that many describe as oppressively alive, even in the midst of total darkness. Exhibitions and museum displays dedicated to the USS Monitor also carry stories of unusual occurrences. Artifacts salvaged from the wreck, such as weaponry, navigation equipment, and personal items belonging to sailors, have been reported to trigger strange phenomena when on display. Some visitors have reported hearing faint voices or whispered commands that seem to come from nowhere, as if the men who once manned the ironclad are still trying to communicate. These experiences, while often subtle, leave a lasting impression, creating a sense that the legacy of the Monitor's crew extends beyond mere history. One of the most frequently reported manifestations involves ghostly sailors performing routine tasks on the deck. Divers have described seeing figures adjusting rigging, checking the alignment of the turret, or standing watch near the gun ports. These apparitions appear for only moments at a time, sometimes glimpsed from the corner of the eye, before vanishing into the murky depths. Many divers recount that these sightings are accompanied by an overwhelming feeling of solemn duty, as if the spirits are bound to the ship by the responsibilities they once carried. Some suggest this may be a form of residual haunting, a replay of the Monitor's final moments imprinted upon the environment. Phantom cannon fire is another common experience, particularly during dives that replicate battle simulations. Divers have reported hearing sharp, metallic blasts that echo through the water in patterns that mimic the historic Battle of Hampton Roads. These sounds often occur without any detectable source and can startle even the most experienced divers. The blasts are sometimes accompanied by sudden shifts in water temperature or strange currents, which divers interpret as the physical presence of unseen forces. while some attribute these phenomena to underwater acoustics or mechanical resonance. The consistency of accounts across multiple dives and expeditions raises questions that science has yet to fully answer. Cold spots in the water surrounding the monitor have also been reported repeatedly. Even on relatively warm days, divers have experienced sudden chills localized near certain sections of the wreck. These pockets of cold often coincide with reported apparitions or sounds, intensifying the eerie atmosphere. Many believe that these unexplained temperature fluctuations are linked to the tragic history of the vessel and the men who perished when it sank during a violent storm off Cape Hatteras. The combination of tragic loss, technological innovation, and violent death seems to have left a lingering imprint that manifests as both visual and physical anomalies. For those brave enough to explore the wreck, researchers and historians have long debated the origin of these haunting experiences. Some argue that the combination of environmental factors, pressure, changes, underwater acoustics, and limited visibility can create convincing illusions. Others suggest that the psychological weight of standing atop a ship with such a storied and tragic past heightens perception, making ordinary phenomena appear supernatural. The recurring patterns of ghostly sailors, phantom cannon blasts, and sudden cold spots suggest a presence that transcends simple physical or psychological explanation. Ultimately, the USS Monitor remains a powerful symbol of both human ingenuity and human tragedy. The reports of ghostly sailors, phantom battle sounds, and mysterious cold spots serve as chilling reminders that the ship's story did not end with its sinking. From the shadowy figures glimpsed on the deck by deep-sea divers to the subtle anomalies reported at exhibitions, the legacy of the Monitor's crew appears to endure, haunting the waters off Cape Hatteras and the minds of those who encounter its story. For anyone exploring the wreck or visiting artifacts brought ashore, the presence of the ironclad is more than historical. It is an encounter with the echoes of courage, duty, and loss that continue to resonate through time, leaving an indelible impression of the past that refuses to remain buried. The SS Andrea G., a freighter that met its end off the coast of Florida, has become the subject of countless ghost stories and diver legends. Sinking under mysterious circumstances decades ago, the wreck now lies submerged in the Gulf Stream, a decaying skeleton of steel and shadow. Over the years, divers who have ventured near the site have reported strange, inexplicable phenomena, ghostly lights flickering through the water, shadowy forms darting among the wreckage, and voices that seem to echo from nowhere. More troubling are the disappearances. A handful of experienced divers have vanished near the Andrea G., leaving friends and investigators with nothing but speculation and fear. The waters around the Andrea G. are deceptively calm during the day, with sunlight illuminating the rusting hull and giving the wreck an almost ethereal beauty. Yet beneath the surface, divers describe an oppressive atmosphere that seems to thicken with each foot of depth. Many report the sensation of being watched, even when alone. Equipment malfunctions are common, with compasses spinning wildly and lights flickering inexplicably. Some divers have captured on camera or sonar what appear to be movements within the wreck, though nothing has been confirmed. The most striking feature is the ghostly illumination, reported by multiple witnesses. Small lights that float near the deck or hover over the cargo holds, moving in patterns that suggest intelligence rather than natural bioluminescence. Several divers recount experiences that chill the spine. One veteran diver described descending into the murky depths, only to see what appeared to be a figure standing on the bow, pale and indistinct. He tried to approach, but the figure vanished as though swallowed by the water. Moments later, he reported hearing faint, unintelligible whispers over his communication line, though no other diver was near. On another occasion, a team noted glowing forms drifting through the ship's interior, moving as though they were inspecting the wreck, yet vanishing when approached. Some divers claim that these forms resemble sailors in old uniforms, their movements deliberate but unworldly, like echoes of a past tragedy replaying beneath the waves. The disappearances near the Andrea G. only deepen the sense of unease. Over the past 50 years, several divers have gone missing without a trace, their equipment found abandoned near the wreck or washed up along the shore. Investigators have speculated about strong underwater currents, entanglement in rusted steel, or disorientation, but the consistent pattern of vanishings has fueled tales of supernatural involvement. Survivors report feeling a heavy dread pressing down as they approach the wreck, an invisible force that seems to pull at both body and mind. Many say that the deeper they descend, the stronger the sensation of being observed becomes, as though the ship itself watches intruders and protects its secrets. Voices are another recurring phenomenon. Divers and occasional researchers have reported hearing commands shouted in the water, faint cries for help, and whispers that seem to come from within the wreck. These sounds are never clear or continuous, but they leave a lasting impression. Some claim the voices are the last echoes of the crew that once manned the freighter, trapped in some spectral loop beneath the waves. Others suggest that they might be residual energy from the panic and confusion during the ship's final hours, now replaying endlessly in the depths. Either way, those who experience them often report a deep, instinctual fear, as if the water itself has become alive with memories of tragedy. The ghostly lights are perhaps the most mysterious aspect of the Andrea G. Divers. Describe them as soft, bluish glows or bright flickers, often appearing inside the ship's hold or along the main deck. They move in ways that suggest intent, sometimes darting ahead to lead divers through passages, other times hovering near areas of particular danger, such as jagged metal or collapsed structures. Yet the consistency of diver accounts, spanning decades, has made the phenomenon impossible to ignore. The Andrea G also carries a psychological weight for those who explore it. Many divers report dreams or intrusive thoughts about the wreck after returning to shore. Some have described nightmares of being trapped inside the sunken ship, pursued by indistinct figures in the water, or feeling themselves pulled deeper into the Gulf Stream. Even on land, the wreck's reputation evokes an almost palpable fear. Fishermen, local historians, and boat crews speak of the Andrea G with caution, often avoiding the area entirely or warning visitors to respect the waters surrounding it. Despite the dangers and eerie accounts, the wreck continues to attract adventurers and paranormal enthusiasts. Some seek the thrill of exploration, others hope to document or prove the supernatural claims surrounding the freighter. For many, the SS Andrea G is not just a shipwreck. It is a nexus of mystery, tragedy, and lingering energy. The combination of ghostly lights, phantom voices, and the unexplained disappearances creates an environment that is both captivating and terrifying, drawing the curious while warning them of the dangers below. In the end, the SS Andrea G, off the coast of Florida, remains a haunting reminder of the sea's power and the unknown forces that may linger long after tragedy strikes. Divers who approach the wreck are confronted not only by rusting steel and murky water, but by the ghostly presence of history itself. The lights, voices, and forms that emerge in the depths serve as a chilling testament to lives lost and secrets submerged, leaving a sense of unease that follows explorers long after they surface. For those willing to descend, the Andrea G offers a glimpse into the spectral echoes of the past, a place where the line between reality and the supernatural dissolves beneath the waves, and where the spirits of the deep refuse to rest. The USS Conestoga, a U.S. Navy tugboat that vanished mysteriously in 1921, remains one of the most haunting maritime mysteries off the coast of San Francisco Bay. Despite extensive searches at the time, the vessel and its crew disappeared without a trace, leaving only speculation and unanswered questions. Over the decades, the wreck was eventually located on the seafloor, and since then, divers have reported phenomena that defy conventional explanation. Ghostly sailors appearing on deck, disembodied voices echoing through the water, and faint lights glowing from within the sunken hull. The story of the Conestoga has evolved into a chilling account of a ship haunted by the spirits of its lost crew. Divers approaching the wreck describe an immediate shift in atmosphere as they descend. The waters near the Conestoga are often thick with sediment, giving the sunken tug an eerie, muted presence. Many report feeling watched, as if invisible eyes are tracking every movement. Equipment often behaves strangely. Compasses spin without reason. Lights flicker, and some cameras fail altogether when turned toward the wreck. The ghostly activity seems concentrated near the main deck, where figures resembling sailors in early 20th century uniforms are frequently reported. They appear faint and translucent, standing rigidly as if frozen in time, sometimes moving slowly across the deck, only to vanish when divers attempt a closer look. One diver recounted descending into the bay at twilight, the water murky and cold, when he spotted what looked like a figure leaning against a railing of the Conestoga. The figure wore a dark naval uniform, its outline flickering in the low visibility. As the diver reached out with his flashlight, the figure dissolved into the water, leaving an unsettling void. Moments later, a faint, metallic voice seemed to echo in the diver's headset, repeating indistinct orders or commands that could not have originated from any surface source. Other divers have described similar experiences. Shadowy sailors appearing in the corners of their vision, only to vanish when directly observed, and the sensation of being followed or monitored by unseen entities. Lights within the wreck are another persistent phenomenon. Multiple divers have reported pale, glowing orbs moving along the interior of the ship, sometimes drifting through hatches or hovering above the engine room. These lights are often described as soft and bluish, almost like lanterns from a bygone era. Yet no explanation for their presence has ever been confirmed. Attempts to capture the lights on camera have occasionally succeeded, though skeptics often attribute the phenomenon to underwater particles reflecting light. However, the consistency and specificity of the diver reports suggest that something unusual is occurring. The lights seem to correspond with the areas where the crew may have been stationed during the ship's operational period, reinforcing the impression that the spirits of the lost sailors linger aboard the sunken vessel. Disembodied voices are another unnerving feature of the Conestoga's legend. Divers and researchers have reported hearing faint commands, the clatter of unseen footsteps, and even the occasional shout, as though the crew is attempting to communicate from beyond the grave. These sounds are never continuous and often come in bursts, adding to the sense of disorientation and fear. Some describe hearing their own names called from the depths, while others claim to hear phrases related to nautical operations, like "all hands on deck" or "secure the lines." The auditory phenomena leave a strong psychological impact, instilling a sense of dread that lingers long after divers resurface. The mysterious disappearance of the USS Conestoga has only intensified the eerie reputation of the wreck. Unlike many sunken vessels, the Conestoga has a history of unresolved questions, which seems to resonate through the ghostly activity. Divers report a heavy, almost tangible sense of the past weighing down the site, a feeling that the ship itself holds memories of the crew and the events leading to its loss. Some researchers suggest that the traumatic energy of the sudden disappearance may have anchored spirits or residual phenomena to the wreck, replaying fragments of the final moments repeatedly in the water. Many report that the combination of cold currents, the ghostly figures, and the mysterious lights creates an atmosphere that is psychologically taxing, making even experienced divers uneasy. Despite the unsettling experiences, the USS Conestoga continues to draw explorers and paranormal enthusiasts. Some are drawn by the history of the ship, eager to study the wreck and perhaps capture evidence of the unexplained phenomena. Others seek the thrill of encountering the supernatural, descending into the depths to glimpse the ghostly sailors and flickering lights firsthand. Whatever the motivation, those who approach the Conestoga often come away with a deep respect for the mysteries that lie beneath the water, as well as a lingering unease about the spirits that may remain aboard. The USS Conestoga off San Francisco Bay remains a chilling testament to the unknown. Divers who explore the wreck face not only the challenges of deep-water navigation, but also the spectral echoes of history itself. The ghostly sailors, disembodied voices, and glowing lights serve as a haunting reminder of lives lost and secrets submerged, leaving a sense of dread that follows even after surfacing. The ship endures as a place where the boundary between the living and the dead seems to blur, where the spirits of the past refuse to rest, and where the mysteries of the deep continue to captivate and terrify those who venture near. The SS Pendleton, a tanker that split in two during a violent storm off the coast of Cape Cod in 1952, is remembered for one of the most heroic maritime rescues in American history. Yet beneath its tale of bravery lies a chilling legacy that continues to unsettle divers and sailors. Reports of ghostly crew members, phantom cries echoing in the fog, and shadowy figures glimpsed through the murky waters near the wreck, even decades after the tragedy. Those who venture near the remains of the Pendleton describe experiences that suggest the spirits of the lost crew linger among the sunken holes. The Pendleton's story begins on a stormy February night, when the tanker broke apart during a nor'easter, scattering debris and leaving its crew in desperate peril. The Coast Guard's daring rescue saved many lives, but lives were also lost, leaving behind unanswered questions and lingering spirits, according to local lore. Divers exploring the wreck report an immediate change in atmosphere as they approach. The waters around the Pendleton are notoriously cold and turbulent, often shrouded in a heavy fog that seems almost unnatural, obscuring the wreck and creating a hauntingly silent environment. Many report feeling a sense of being watched, a weight pressing down, as if the crew's memories still inhabit the shattered remains of the ship. One frequent phenomenon involves sightings of ghostly figures near the wreck. Divers describe sailors in 1950s maritime attire appearing on the deck or alongside the broken hull. These apparitions are often seen moving slowly, as if performing their duties, only to vanish the moment they are observed directly. Some witnesses report seeing a figure leaning over the railing, looking out toward the horizon, its outline flickering like a candle in the wind. Others speak of fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures swimming just below the surface, vanishing into the depths before divers can get a closer look. The consistency of these reports has convinced many that the spirits of the Pendleton's lost crew remain tied to the wreck, perhaps replaying the final moments of that fateful night. Phantom cries and sounds are another hallmark of the Pendleton's haunting. Many divers and sailors recount hearing faint shouts or calls for help that seem to come from the fog above the water or echo from the submerged wreck. These sounds are often fragmented snatches of sentences, urgent calls, or the indistinct murmur of panic. Some describe the cries as eerily similar to those that would have been heard during the storm in 1952, adding a chilling sense of historical continuity. Occasionally, the cries are accompanied by metallic sound chains, rattling, or the faint groan of a ship's hull, though no surface vessel or underwater equipment could explain them. The combination of these auditory phenomena and the ghostly visuals creates a powerful psychological impression, leaving divers tense, wary, and profoundly aware of the tragedy that unfolded decades earlier. Shadowy forms seen through the water also contribute to the Pendleton's eerie reputation. Divers often describe glimpsing human-shaped silhouettes moving among debris, only for them to vanish when approached. Some claim these shadows linger near sections of the wreck where the most lives were lost, while others report seeing figures at the edges of visibility, almost as if the spirits are observing intruders in their watery domain. The murky Cape Cod waters and shifting currents enhance the illusion, but the frequency and specificity of the sightings suggest something beyond mere trickery of light and movement. These apparitions are sometimes described as glowing faintly, an ethereal shimmer that contrasts with the darkness of the ocean depths. The wreck itself seems to be an active participant in the haunting. Divers report sudden temperature drops near certain sections of the hull, unusual currents that seem to push or pull them towards specific areas, and equipment malfunctions when cameras or lights are aimed at apparitions. Some suggest that the energy of the tragedy, the fear, panic, and desperation of those lost has imprinted on the wreck, creating a form of residual haunting that can be perceived by those sensitive to such phenomena. Others believe that the Pendleton's ghostly manifestations are more interactive, responding to the presence of divers and observers, a silent reenactment of the events that ended in catastrophe. Despite the fearsome reputation, the SS Pendleton continues to attract divers, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts. Some are motivated by the history of the heroic rescue and want to explore the wreck itself, while others seek evidence of the supernatural. hoping to capture a glimpse of ghostly sailors or hear the phantom cries for themselves. Those who descend into the depths of Cape Cod as cold waters often emerge with stories of unease, of a lingering presence that follows them to the surface, and of memories that feel as though they are shared with the spirits of the past. The SS Pendleton stands as a testament to both human courage and lingering mystery. Its legacy is dual, a tale of one of the most daring rescues in maritime history, and a chilling reminder of the lives lost and the spirits that, according to many witnesses, remain in the waters off Cape Cod. Divers recount ghostly crew members performing their duties, cries echoing from the depths, and shadowy figures glimpsed among debris phenomena that blur the boundary between history and the supernatural. For those brave enough to approach the wreck, the experience is as humbling as it is terrifying, offering a rare glimpse into the lingering presence of a tragedy that refuses to be forgotten. Even today, the Pendleton's sunken remains continue to fascinate, drawing those who seek to understand the mystery of the ship and its crew. The combination of ghostly apparitions, phantom cries, and the unsettling behavior of the wreck itself keeps the legend alive, ensuring that the story of the SS Pendleton is not only remembered for heroism but also whispered about in the cold fog along the Atlantic coast. Those who venture into the waters report an unmistakable feeling that the lost sailors of the Pendleton have not left, and that the spirits of that stormy night remain forever tied to the depths where history and haunting converge. The HMS Falcon, a British naval vessel that met its end off the rugged coast of Maine during a violent storm in the late 18th century, has long been a source of maritime legend. Divers, sailors, and even coastal observers have recounted experiences that suggest the ship's presence has not fully departed the waters where it sank. Over 2 centuries later, the Falcon continues to inspire both awe and fear, drawing those who are intrigued by its tragic history and the supernatural phenomena reported near its resting place. The Falcon was caught in a powerful nor'easter while navigating the rocky Maine coastline. Waves crashed against the hull with relentless force, and the ship eventually succumbed, sinking in deep waters where the Atlantic meets jagged shoals. While historical records detail the loss of lives and cargo, local lore has preserved stories that go beyond the official accounts, speaking of ghostly sailors, unexplained sounds, and apparitions that appear in foggy conditions. Those who venture near the wreck often report an immediate sense of unease, a heaviness in the air, as if the ship's last moments linger just beneath the surface. One of the most frequently reported phenomena involves the ghostly crew of the Falcon. Divers have described seeing figures in period naval attire walking along the deck, seemingly performing their duties as if the ship had not yet met its watery grave. These apparitions are often observed only peripherally, vanishing when looked at directly, giving the impression that the spirits are aware of being watched but unwilling to engage. Some divers report seeing a spectral captain standing rigidly at the helm, eyes fixed on the horizon as if guiding the doomed ship through an invisible storm. Others have described sailors climbing the rigging or adjusting phantom sails, movements that are precise, deliberate, and chillingly lifelike. Accompanying these visual phenomena are disembodied voices and commands that seem to emanate from the depths. Divers and fishermen alike report hearing shouts of orders, the ringing of bells, and calls of warning that cannot be traced to any physical source. Some accounts describe muffled conversations in old British naval dialects, snippets of dialogue as if frozen in the moments before the ship sank. On foggy mornings, when visibility is low and the ocean is eerily still, boaters have recounted hearing clear commands shouted across the waves, the voices fading suddenly as if swallowed by the mist. The combination of sound and sight creates a powerful, immersive sense of presence, making even the most experienced sailors pause in awe and trepidation. The Falcon's masts are another source of spectral sightings. In thick fog, witnesses have reported phantom masts rising above the water, appearing as though the ship has not fully submerged. These visions are fleeting, often vanishing the moment they are approached, but they are consistent enough to have become part of the legend. Mariners passing the area describe a sense of disorientation, as the ghostly masts seem to suggest a vessel navigating in the wrong century, anchored in memory rather than reality. This visual trick, whether the result of refracted light, lingering fog, or actual supernatural activity, has contributed to the Falcon's reputation as one of Maine's most haunted shipwrecks. Cold spots and an oppressive atmosphere are also reported near the wreck site. Divers have noted sudden drops in water temperature that are localized and inexplicable, often occurring near sections of the wreck where sailors are said to have perished. Some even describe a heavy, almost physical sensation pressing down upon them, an intangible weight that intensifies the further they descend toward the Falcon's remains. Electrical equipment sometimes malfunctions in these areas, lights flickering or cameras shutting down unexpectedly, adding to the sense that the ship exerts a lingering influence over its surroundings. Despite its chilling reputation, the HMS Falcon continues to attract divers, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts. Many are drawn by the historical significance of the ship and its dramatic end, while others hope to witness the unexplained phenomena themselves. Those who explore the wreck often emerge with stories of unease and wonder, describing ghostly sailors, commands echoing through the depths, and masts appearing to rise from the fog. The experiences reported are varied, yet remarkably consistent, reinforcing the notion that the Falcon's story extends beyond history books and manifests in the waters where it sank. The legend of the HMS Falcon serves as a haunting reminder of the lives lost at sea and the power of the ocean to preserve memory. Divers and coastal observers alike speak of spectral sailors performing their duties, disembodied voices calling commands, and phantom masts that vanish as mysteriously as they appear. The phenomena surrounding the wreck suggest that the Falcon's final moments are replayed endlessly, a spectral echo of a storm that claimed lives and left an indelible mark on the Atlantic coast of Maine. Today, the Falcon's wreck site is treated with both reverence and caution. Those who approach it do so with respect for the tragedy and with an awareness that the waters are not just a resting place for a sunken ship, but a lingering stage for the memories of its crew. Witnesses continue to report ghostly figures, commands in the fog, and spectral masts, a testament to the enduring power of the Falcon's story. For those who dare to venture near the wreck, the presence of the HMS Falcon is unmistakable. A phantom ship frozen between history and the supernatural, a haunting reminder of the stormy night that sealed its fate and the crew whose spirits may never have left. The HMS Falcon remains one of Maine's most compelling maritime mysteries. Its legacy is a blend of tragedy, heroism, and lingering spectral phenomena that continue to captivate and unnerve all who encounter it. Whether glimpsed as ghostly figures on deck, heard in commands carried by the mist, or seen as phantom masts emerging from the fog, the Falcon's presence serves as a chilling reminder that the past can persist, haunting both the imagination and the waters where history unfolded. The USS Lexington, famously known as the Blue Ghost, met its fate during the Battle of the Coral Sea in May 1942, sinking beneath the waves after intense combat with Japanese forces. More than 70 years later, the wreck remains a site of fascination for historians, naval personnel, and divers, not only for its historical significance, but for the numerous accounts of unexplained phenomena reported around the vessel. Those who have explored the wreckage during U.S. Navy exercises and private dives speak of ghostly apparitions, phantom alarms, and mysterious lights emanating from the hull, suggesting that the spirits of sailors lost in battle may still linger in the depths of the Pacific. The Lexington was an aircraft carrier of considerable importance, serving as a centerpiece in the early Pacific campaigns of World War II. During the battle, she endured multiple torpedo and bomb hits, eventually succumbing to fires and explosions that forced her crew to abandon ship. Accounts from survivors detail the chaos, the roar of guns, and the desperate attempts to save lives. Today, divers visiting the wreck often describe a similarly overwhelming atmosphere, a lingering sense of tension and presence, as though the ship's final moments are replayed endlessly beneath the water. One of the most commonly reported experiences involves shadowy figures moving along the sunken deck. Divers have claimed to see outlines resembling sailors in World War II uniforms, sometimes climbing ladders or moving along corridors, only to vanish when approached. These apparitions are not always fleeting. Some divers describe watching the figures carry out tasks, adjusting equipment, or gesturing as if communicating with one another. The uncanny realism of these sightings makes it difficult to dismiss them as mere imagination. Many who have encountered these figures report a chilling feeling, as if the crew is trapped in a loop, perpetually performing their duties in the depths of the ocean. Accompanying the visual phenomena are phantom sounds that seem to originate from the ship itself. Divers report alarms sounding underwater, echoing throughout the wreck, as though the Lexington's systems are still responding to emergencies decades after her sinking. The blaring signals, often accompanied by faint, metallic clanging, are inexplicably localized, heard only in certain sections of the hull. Some divers describe hearing orders being shouted in old naval commands, phrases that were likely spoken during the ship's final hours. The combination of sound and sight produces an intense sensation of immersion, giving the impression that the wreck is more than a static relic. It is a haunted echo of a violent past. Eerie lights are another phenomenon frequently reported near the Lexington. Divers have seen faint glows emanating from the interior of the ship, moving along hallways or flickering across the hangar decks. These lights are often described as bluish or greenish in color, appearing in areas where no current diving equipment or natural bioluminescence would account for them. The lights sometimes pulse or move as if guided by invisible hands, adding an otherworldly quality to the wreck. Cold spots are also a common experience near the wreck. Divers recount sudden drops in temperature in specific areas of the ship, often coinciding with sightings of apparitions or the appearance of phantom lights. These drops are not explained by currents or environmental conditions and are often accompanied by an oppressive sensation, a heaviness that seems to press down upon the divers. Some even report malfunctioning electronic equipment during these moments, lights flickering on dive computers or cameras shutting off, unexpectedly suggesting that the ship exerts a residual influence over its surroundings, both physical and spectral. The Lexington's haunting seems to affect not only those who dive the wreck, but also participants in naval exercises nearby. Personnel on training missions have reported hearing faint alarms, indistinct voices, and even distant clanging reminiscent of machinery operating under duress. Despite the fact that no live operations are taking place in the vicinity, these unexplained occurrences have led to a deep respect for the site and its history, with Navy divers often cautioning newcomers about the eerie experiences that await beneath the waves. The legend of the USS Lexington extends beyond simple ghost stories. It serves as a reminder of the human lives lost in one of the most pivotal naval battles of World War II, and the lingering energy of tragedy. Divers and Navy personnel alike speak of ghostly sailors performing their duties, phantom alarms sounding in the hull, and lights flickering in places that should remain dark. The ship seems to replay its final moments endlessly, a haunting testament to heroism, loss, and the indelible marks left on both history and the waters it now rests in. Today, the wreck of the Lexington is approached with both curiosity and caution. Those who dive its depths do so with an awareness that they are entering more than a historic site. They are entering a space where past and present, life and afterlife, converge. Reports of shadowy sailors, disembodied voices, alarms ringing from nowhere, and unexplainable lights continue to accumulate, reinforcing the sense that the blue ghost is alive in some spectral form, forever tied to the Coral Sea and the battle that claimed her. The USS Lexington remains one of the most haunted and compelling shipwrecks of the Pacific, a site where history, tragedy, and unexplained phenomena intersect. Witnesses describe ghostly sailors, phantom alarms, eerie lights, and cold, oppressive spot-all manifestations that speak to the lasting presence of those who perished aboard the carrier. For divers and historians alike, the Lexington is more than steel and wreckage. It is a haunting echo of courage and loss, a blue ghost whose presence continues to be felt decades after her final voyage. The SS Andrea, once a proud passenger liner navigating the Atlantic, now rests silently beneath the waters off the New Jersey coast. The ship met its untimely fate during a violent storm decades ago, claimed by towering waves and howling winds that overwhelmed the vessel and its crew. While the physical wreck remains submerged, the ship has earned a reputation among divers and locals as one of the most haunted sites along the eastern seaboard. Reports from those who venture near the wreck speak of ghostly passengers glimpsed through murky water, chilling cold spots drifting through dive areas, and phantom screams that pierce the ocean's surface on stormy nights. Divers approaching the wreck often describe an immediate sense of unease as they descend. The water, though normally calm, sometimes seems to thicken around the Andrea, as if resisting intrusion. It is in this silence that witnesses first notice the apparitions. Many report seeing figures dressed in early 20th century attire, drifting among the sunken corridors. Some appear to clutch personal belongings, a handbag, a hat, a kotas though, attempting to preserve a fragment of life before the storm claimed them. These ghostly passengers often seem unaware of the divers, continuing their spectral movements through the water as though replaying the final moments of the ship's journey. One of the most commonly reported experiences involves sudden, unexplained shifts in temperature. Cold spots move unpredictably through the diving area, chilling divers to the bone even in the warmest waters. These pockets of icy water are often accompanied by the faint sensation of being watched, a prickle on the skin, or a weight pressing on the chest. Some divers have noted that these cold currents appear to follow their movements, as if the spirits themselves are aware of their presence and wish to communicate or perhaps to warn. Instruments, too, occasionally behave erratically. Dive computers flicker or reset without reason, lights dim, and cameras capture fleeting shadows that vanish upon review, further suggesting an otherworldly presence. Sounds associated with the SS Andrea are equally unsettling. During stormy nights, fishermen and nearby residents have reported hearing phantom screams echoing from beneath the waves. These screams are often described as muffled, yet filled with urgency, as though the souls of those lost in the storm are trapped, reliving their terror endlessly. Divers beneath the surface occasionally claim to hear distant cries, distorted and hollow, that seem to emanate from the ship's interior. Some describe whispers of names or faint fragments of conversation carried through the water, adding to the sense that the Andrea is not just a wreck but a vessel frozen in the final moments of its passengers' lives. Visual anomalies also accompany these auditory and tactile experiences. Several divers have captured images showing faint, translucent shapes appearing to move through the hull. These figures sometimes resemble entire families huddled together, or solitary individuals staring outward as if seeking rescue. Other times, the apparitions seem to float above the ship, gliding along the water column with an ethereal grace. The consistency of these sightings across different diving expeditions suggests that the phenomena are not merely products of imagination or optical illusion, but rather manifestations tied to the wreck itself. The haunting of the Andrea appears to intensify during rough seas. Strong winds and waves stir the waters around the wreck, and witnesses often report an increase in apparitional activity. Figures appear more clearly, cold spots become sharper, and phantom sounds rise in volume. Some divers have described feeling sudden impacts or being lightly touched by invisible hands, as though the spirits are reaching out to communicate, to make their presence known, or to reenact the chaos of the storm that claimed them. Nighttime visits are especially unnerving. Under minimal light, the ghostly shapes are sometimes illuminated by the faint flicker of bioluminescent plankton, giving them a spectral glow that contrasts sharply with the surrounding darkness. The SS Andrea's haunted reputation extends beyond those who dive its depths. Local folklore recounts tales of fishermen steering clear of the area during certain nights, claiming that the water carries an unnatural chill and that strange lights can be seen just below the surface. Some report witnessing ghostly forms standing on the deck, visible through waves during storms, only for the shapes to vanish as the seas calm. Stories of phantom passengers calling for help or appearing briefly in fishing nets have circulated for decades, passed down among coastal communities who regard the wreck with a mixture of reverence and fear. Despite the fear, the SS Andrea draws a fascination among paranormal enthusiasts, historians, and divers alike. Many approach the wreck with both curiosity and caution, aware that they are entering a space charged with tragedy and lingering energy. Reports consistently describe ghostly passengers, cold currents, phantom screams, and unexplained visual phenomena, reinforcing the notion that the Andrea is more than a sunken ship, is a spectral time capsule, preserving the last moments of those aboard for all who dare to witness it. For those who have ventured near, the experience is unforgettable. The SS Andrea is a haunting reminder of the power of the sea, the fragility of human life, and the possibility that souls may remain tethered to the places of their greatest trauma. Whether glimpsed as fleeting shapes beneath the waves, heard as cries carried on storm winds, or felt as chilling currents brushing against divers, the Andrea stands not just as a wreck off the New Jersey coast, but as a ghostly testament to tragedy, memory, and the enduring mysteries of the deep. The SS Elsinore, a cargo ship that met its untimely end along the Gulf Coast decades ago, has long been the subject of whispered tales among sailors, divers, and locals. The vessel, once bustling with activity, now lies submerged in shallow waters, its steel hull corroded by salt and time. Yet despite its sunken state, the Elsinore is far from forgotten, disembodied voices echoing across the seabed, and the unnerving sensation of being followed through the dark rusted corridors of the ship. Divers approaching the Elsinore often report an immediate and inexplicable sense of foreboding. As they descend into the murky depths, the water seems to thicken around them, a subtle resistance that raises the hairs on their arms. It is not long before the first strange phenomena appear. Many divers claim to see shadowy figures moving just beyond the reach of their lights. These forms are indistinct at first, dark silhouettes, drifting through the water, but as observers focus, they often take on human-like shapes, appearing to move with purpose along the ship's deck and through the open hatches. Some are fleeting glimpses, gone the moment one tries to approach, leaving only the haunting impression of presence. Cold spots are a recurring feature of the Elsinore's haunting. Divers describe sudden drops in temperature that are impossible given the surrounding waters. These pockets of icy water often seem to move along with the divers, brushing against them as though invisible hands are trailing their movements. Many describe a weight pressing on their shoulders, a subtle yet unmistakable feeling of being observed. Some report that their instruments behave strangely in these areas. Dive computers reset, lights flicker, and cameras capture fleeting shapes that vanish when reviewed. The consistency of these experiences suggests that the ship is more than a forgotten wreck. It is a site saturated with lingering energy, a graveyard of memories refusing to remain submerged. Auditory phenomena are equally unnerving. Several divers have recounted hearing disembodied voices emanating from within the ship. These are often low, indistinct murmurs, sometimes rising into sharp cries that seem to echo through the water. On occasion, divers report hearing their own names called from deep within the wreck, whispered from a direction that cannot be pinpointed. Above the surface, local fishermen have described hearing faint voices over the waves, cries of sailors reaching out from beneath the Gulf waters, particularly during stormy nights. These accounts, repeated across decades, lend a chilling consistency to the ship's spectral reputation. Visual anomalies add to the Elsinore's mystique. Divers often describe seeing ghostly shapes that appear semi-transparent, drifting silently through the rusted frame of the ship. Some witnesses report families clinging to each other, frozen in momentary terror, as if replaying the final moments before the ship sank. Others see single figures standing alone on the deck or moving through cargo holds, their forms illuminated by the occasional shafts of light that penetrate the water. These apparitions are typically silent, but their presence alone is enough to unsettle even the most experienced divers. One of the most unsettling experiences reported is the feeling of being followed. Divers recount an oppressive sense that something unseen is moving behind them, mirroring their every movement. Glances over the shoulder reveal nothing but the rolling water and the ghostly hull of the ship. Yet the sensation persists, growing more intense as they navigate the ship's interior. Some have reported feeling a tug on their gear or a sudden change in buoyancy that seems deliberate, as if the spirits themselves are guiding or warning them. The SS Elsinore's haunting is said to intensify during storms. When winds whip the Gulf waters and waves crash against the shore, sightings and experiences become more frequent and more vivid. Shadowy figures appear more clearly, cold spots bite deeper, and phantom voices rise in volume, carrying the urgency of lives interrupted. Divers report the eerie sensation that the ship is replaying its final moments, that the spirits trapped within are reliving the chaos of the storm that claimed them. Nighttime dives are particularly harrowing. With limited visibility, apparitions are often illuminated by bioluminescent plankton, giving them an ethereal, otherworldly glow that contrasts sharply with the darkness of the surrounding water. Locals along the Gulf Coast share their own stories. Fishermen avoid certain areas near the wreck during rough seas, claiming the water feels unnatural, and that spectral forms can be glimpsed just below the surface. Some have reported lights glimmering through the water where none should be, or the sudden, inexplicable feeling of being watched while tending nets. Tales of divers disappearing briefly or reporting harrowing encounters with ghostly crew members have circulated for decades, reinforcing the Elsinore's reputation as a site of supernatural energy and maritime tragedy. Despite the fear surrounding the SS Elsinore, it has drawn the attention of paranormal enthusiasts, historians, and adventurous divers seeking to document the unexplained. Each encounter adds to the growing body of testimony. Ghostly sailors, shadowy forms, chilling cold currents, and disembodied voices. The wreck is more than a ship beneath the waves. It is a portal to the past, a vessel holding the lingering memories of those lost, and a reminder of the unpredictable power of the sea. For those who venture near, the SS Elsinore offers an experience both terrifying and unforgettable. Its shadowy figures, phantom cries, and chilling presence leave a lasting impression, a testament to tragedy, memory, and the enduring mysteries that lie beneath the Gulf waters. The ship remains a haunted landmark, drawing those curious enough to witness its spectral residence, and ensuring that the stories of the SS Elsinore endure long after its physical structure has been claimed by the sea. The USS Macon, a massive rigid airship once patrolling the California coast, has long been a source of fascination for historians and paranormal enthusiasts alike. While the airship met its tragic end in 1935 off Point Sur, its legacy seems to linger far beyond its time in the skies. Locals, divers, and occasional historians recount eerie experiences when near the wreckage. Stories that suggest the spirits of lost naval aviators remain tied to the remains of the legendary dirigible. Shadowy silhouettes drifting above the wreck, phantom lights glimmering beneath the water, and mysterious cold spots that appear and vanish without warning have become consistent elements in reports of the Macon as haunting. The Macon's final flight was one of ambition and disaster. Once the pride of the U.S. Navy, it carried its crew and airships' essential technology into the skies along the California coastline. During a sudden storm, the massive airship suffered structural failure, crashing into the Pacific Ocean. While some crew members were rescued, many lives were lost, and the enormous wreck sank beneath the waves, taking with it the remnants of a once celebrated symbol of naval power. Over the decades, the site has drawn historians, divers, and ghost hunters, many of whom report experiences that defy explanation. Divers approaching the wreck describe a palpable shift in atmosphere as they near the site. The water, typically calm, seems heavier, almost charged with unseen energy. As lights penetrate the depths, some report seeing fleeting glimmers that resemble lanterns or small lamps floating eerily above the wreckage. These phantom lights often vanish when approached, only to reappear in another location nearby. Witnesses suggest that these glows are the remnants of aviators' lanterns, their spirits still performing duties from a time long past, unwilling or unable to leave the airship behind. Shadowy silhouettes are a common sight near the Macon's resting place. Divers and fishermen have described human-shaped figures gliding along the wreckage, sometimes standing on what remains of the hull or near scattered debris. These shapes are often described as being indistinct, formed of mist or shadow, yet their movements are deliberate. Some appear to be searching, pacing, or gesturing, as though performing tasks from life. Experienced divers report that the shapes maintain a presence even when they turn their own lights toward them, dissolving into the darkness of the ocean only to reappear moments later. The consistency of these observations over decades suggests a lingering presence tied to the Macon's final crew. Accompanying these visual phenomena are reports of phantom sounds. Witnesses recount hearing voices, sometimes calling out commands or the names of crew members, echoing faintly from beneath the waves. Other times, divers describe hearing the low hum of engines, a mechanical echo of the airship's once powerful motors. Some report the sensation of whispers brushing past them, as if unseen hands are conveying messages from the past. These auditory anomalies are often accompanied by sudden changes in water temperature, creating cold spots that chill divers to the bone. The cold seems localized and purposeful, moving along with divers as they explore the wreck, leaving them with the unnerving sense that something unseen is observing their every movement. The eerie manifestations are not limited to divers alone. Fishermen and locals along the California coast have long shared accounts of unexplained phenomena associated with the Macon. On foggy nights, some have seen ghostly lights hovering above the water, tracing the shape of the airship in a spectral silhouette. Others describe hearing distant calls or commands carried faintly over the surf, voices that seem both urgent and sorrowful, echoing the memories of the airmen who perished during the Macon's final flight. Even from the shore, the wreck appears to exert a strange influence, with many reporting feelings of being watched or a sudden chill when standing near the approximate crash site. One of the most unsettling experiences reported by divers is the feeling of presence, as though they are not alone in the water. Several have recounted the sensation of being followed through the wreckage, glances revealing nothing but the swirling ocean around them, yet the sensation persists, intensifying near larger sections of the hull or near scattered debris where crew members were known to have been stationed. Some divers have described moments where their equipment behaves erratically, lights flicker, cameras capture strange shapes, and electronic compasses spin without reason. These anomalies suggest that the Macon spirits may be interacting with the modern world, manifesting in subtle but unmistakable ways. Stormy conditions seem to amplify the haunting. During turbulent weather, the phantom lights appear more vividly. The shadowy figures move with greater clarity, and the voices become louder, carrying through the water in a way that is both chilling and compelling. Locals have noted that during such times, the Macon seems almost alive, replaying fragments of its last moments before the crash. Divers have reported witnessing what appeared to be reenactments of the crew attempting to stabilize the airship, figures moving frantically across the wreck, only to vanish into the murky depths once the storm subsides. Despite the dangers of exploring a sunken airship, the USS Macon continues to attract adventurers, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts. Each encounter adds new testimony to the growing body of evidence of its haunting. Phantom lights, shadowy silhouettes, ghostly voices, and chilling cold spots remain central to the ship's spectral reputation. The Macon story is not merely a tale of naval tragedy, but a persistent reminder of those lost, their presence echoing across the decades, anchored to the remains of the once mighty airship. For those brave enough to approach the wreck, the USS Macon offers an experience that is both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Its haunting is subtle yet undeniable, a convergence of tragedy, memory, and unexplained phenomena. The airship lives on, not just in history books, but in the whispered accounts of divers, the tales of locals, and the shadowy forms and phantom lights that continue to haunt the waters off the California coast. Even in its watery grave, the USS Macon remains a sentinel of the past, forever tied to the spirits of the lost aviators who sailed with it, guiding and observing in silence beneath the waves. The SS City of Boston, a steamship that sank off the coast of Massachusetts in 1870, has long been a source of maritime mystery and haunting. The tragedy claimed the lives of over 100 passengers and crew, many of whom perished in the icy Atlantic waters. Since that fateful night, Sailors, divers, and local fishermen have reported strange phenomena surrounding the wreck, suggesting that the spirits of those lost may still linger near the remains of the ill-fated vessel. Accounts of ghostly screams, apparitions walking the deck, and phantom lights glowing from cabins have become a consistent part of the lore surrounding the SS City of Boston, making it one of New England's most haunted shipwrecks. The sinking of the city of Boston occurred during a violent storm, with waves crashing over the deck and powerful winds driving the ship toward its doom. Despite efforts to navigate safely, the vessel struck rocks and began to take on water rapidly. Survivors recount chaotic scenes, with passengers struggling to find lifeboats, while screams and cries echoed over the stormy sea. Many of those on board were never recovered, and the ship eventually disappeared beneath the Atlantic waves. Since that time, reports of haunting have persisted, with divers describing chilling experiences when exploring the wreck site. One of the most frequently reported phenomena is the presence of phantom lights. Divers approaching the wreck have often described small, glowing orbs or lantern-like lights emerging from the cabins of the submerged ship. These lights seem to move along the deck, flickering in the dark waters before vanishing abruptly. Witnesses suggest that these lights are the remnants of lanterns once used by the crew and passengers, their spirits replaying the final moments of the voyage. Some divers have attempted to follow these glowing orbs, only to find that they vanish as they approach, leaving behind an eerie sense of being watched. In addition to these lights, shadowy apparitions are commonly reported near the wreck. Divers have described indistinct human-shaped forms walking along the deck or appearing near structural remnants of the ship. These figures are often described as moving deliberately, as if performing the tasks they had in life, though their features remain blurred and ghost-like. Several divers recount moments when these apparitions appeared to be interacting with their surroundings, such as reaching toward lifeboats or gesturing toward the hull, only to fade into the surrounding darkness moments later. The consistency of these sightings across multiple decades suggests that the ship's spirits may remain tied to the site, replaying fragments of their final, tragic moments. Accompanying these visual phenomena are reports of phantom sounds. Fishermen and divers alike have reported hearing the screams and cries of passengers echoing faintly over the water, even on calm, windless nights. Others describe the sounds of heavy footsteps moving across the deck or the low murmur of voices calling names, echoing the chaos of the ship's sinking. These sounds are often accompanied by sudden changes in water temperature, creating localized cold spots that chill divers and seem to move with them as they explore the wreck. The combination of auditory and physical sensations leaves witnesses with the unmistakable feeling of being in the presence of the lost souls. Stormy weather appears to amplify the haunting. During periods of heavy fog or rough seas, the phantom lights glow brighter and appear more frequently, while shadowy figures become more distinct. Some divers have reported witnessing what appear to be reenactments of the sinking itself, figures moving frantically along the deck, calling out to each other, or attempting to save fellow passengers. These spectral recreations vanish as suddenly as they appear, leaving divers with the unsettling impression of observing a tragedy frozen in time beneath the waves. Locals along the Massachusetts coast have also reported supernatural experiences connected to the city of Boston. On foggy nights, fishermen have seen glowing lights hover above the water, tracing the outline of the sunken ship. Some claim to have heard disembodied cries and commands echoing over the surf, while others have felt inexplicable cold drafts even when standing safely on shore. These experiences contribute to the sense that the ship's legacy continues to influence the surrounding waters, with the spirits of the lost remaining vigilant and restless. The eerie presence of the city of Boston is not confined to professional divers and locals. Amateur explorers and maritime historians have documented similar experiences. Several recount moments when their equipment behaves strangely, with cameras capturing shapes that are invisible to the naked eye, and underwater lights flickering without cause. Compasses and sonar readings occasionally register anomalies near the wreck, suggesting that the spirits or energies surrounding the ship interact with technology in ways that remain unexplained. Despite the dangers of exploring a sunken 19th-century vessel, the SS City of Boston continues to attract those drawn to both history and the supernatural. Phantom lights, shadowy figures, ghostly screams, and chilling cold spots form the core of its haunted reputation. The story of the ship is a tale not only of maritime disaster, but of lingering spirits that refuse to leave the site of their tragic deaths. Trapped in the cold Atlantic waters where their lives were abruptly ended, for those who dare approach the wreck, the SS City of Boston offers an experience that is both fascinating and terrifying. Its haunting is subtle yet unmistakable, a mixture of visual, auditory, and physical phenomena that make it clear the tragedy of 1870 continues to echo through the decades. The ghostly apparitions, glowing lights, and phantom sounds create a bridge between past and present, allowing modern witnesses to glimpse the lives and final moments of those lost at sea. Even in its watery grave, the SS City of Boston remains a spectral reminder of human vulnerability, tragedy, and the enduring power of memory beneath the waves. The HMS Halifax, a British warship that met its fate off the treacherous coast of North Carolina, has long been a source of maritime mystery and ghostly tales. Built in the mid-18th century, the Halifax was known for patrolling the Atlantic, carrying soldiers, and engaging in naval skirmishes during a time of colonial unrest. Its final voyage, however, ended in disaster when dense fog and violent storms drove it onto hidden shoals near the Outer Banks. The wreck sank rapidly, taking with it the lives of many sailors and leaving the Atlantic waters around North Carolina shrouded in legends of haunting. Over the centuries, divers, fishermen, and coastal explorers have reported supernatural phenomena tied to the sunken vessel. Ghostly sailors walking along the deck, phantom cannon fire echoing across the water, and shadowy masts that appear and vanish within the fog. The Halifax was caught in a sudden storm while returning from a supply mission. Survivors from the ship later recounted chaotic scenes of crashing waves, splintering timbers, and the desperate attempts of crew members to save themselves. Many perished instantly, while others were lost to the cold Atlantic waters. From that fateful day onward, reports of ghostly activity near the wreck became frequent, suggesting that the spirits of those lost at sea never fully left the Halifax. Even centuries later, those who venture near the wreck site report experiences that defy explanation, reinforcing the ship's reputation as one of the most haunted maritime locations along the East Coast. Among the most striking reports are the sightings of ghostly sailors. Divers exploring the wreck often describe the appearance of translucent human figures moving deliberately along the deck, sometimes adjusting sails or handling ropes as if performing their duties in life. These apparitions are typically seen out of the corner of one's eye, vanishing when looked at directly. Some divers report hearing faint voices or the murmur of commands being issued, often in the clipped, formal tones of 18th-century naval officers. Fishermen in the area have similarly recounted seeing figures in period uniforms pacing along the water's surface or appearing at the edge of fog banks, only to vanish as the fog shifts. The consistency of these sightings has created an enduring belief that the spirits of the Halifax's crew remain tied to their sunken vessel, replaying echoes of their final moments. Phantom cannon fire is another common phenomenon reported at the Halifax wreck site. Witnesses describe hearing the low boom of cannons and the metallic clatter of cannonballs striking timber or rock. The sounds often occur during periods of fog or stormy weather, and they seem to come from underwater, as if the wreck itself were replaying a long-forgotten battle. Some divers have reported feeling vibrations in the water timed with these sounds, adding a physical element to the auditory experiences. Locals say that the ghostly cannon fire is sometimes accompanied by fleeting glimpses of cannon smoke or brief flashes of light over the water, further enhancing the eerie sense of a ship frozen in a spectral battle. Shadowy masts are yet another element of the haunting. On foggy nights, visitors and sailors have reported seeing the outlines of tall masts rising from the water, only to vanish moments later as the fog shifts. These masts appear in the same positions as the ship's original rigging, giving the impression that the Halifax itself is rising briefly from its watery grave. Some witnesses claim that these masts are accompanied by the silhouettes of sailors on deck, while others see the masts alone, swaying as if caught in a non-existent breeze. The phenomenon is most often reported during the early morning hours or late evening, when visibility is low and the fog is thick, creating an atmospheric tableau that seems drawn from the time of the ship's sinking. Diving near the wreck brings its own set of eerie experiences. Divers have recounted cold spots that appear without explanation, sudden changes in water currents, and equipment malfunctions, particularly around the ship's main hull. Shadowy forms moving along the deck are sometimes accompanied by faint whispers of commands, and lights from diving torches occasionally catch reflections of shapes that vanish when approached. Even seasoned maritime explorers report a palpable tension when visiting the site, a mix of awe and unease that underscores the lingering presence of the lost sailors. Weather seems to play a significant role in the haunting. Fog, rain, and stormy conditions are often reported in conjunction with ghostly activity, including apparitions, phantom cannon fire, and moving shadows. Some locals claim that the spirits of the Halifax are most active during anniversaries of the sinking, while others note that sudden storms often precede unusual sightings or sounds. The stories surrounding the HMS Halifax have been documented by historians, divers, and local maritime enthusiasts, each adding layers to the legend. While skeptics suggest natural explanations such as fog, reflections, or shifting light, the sheer number of consistent reports over centuries makes the haunting difficult to dismiss entirely. Those who have experienced a sight often leave with a lasting impression of the ship and its crew, a sense that the spirits of the Halifax continue to navigate the Atlantic waters bound forever to the site of their tragic end. For those brave enough to approach the wreck, the HMS Halifax offers a haunting glimpse into the past. Shadowy sailors, phantom cannon fire, and disappearing masts create a spectral tableau that merges history with the supernatural. The ship's tragedy, frozen in fog and water, reminds all who witness it of the fragility of life at sea and the enduring echoes of lives lost beneath the Atlantic waves. The haunting of the Halifax is not merely a story of a shipwreck. It is a living memory, preserved in shadow, sound, and light. A chilling testament to the past that continues to stir the waters of North Carolina. The SS Oregon, a once proud passenger steamer, met a tragic end off the coast of New Jersey, and over the decades, its wreck has gained a reputation for haunting those who venture near. Built in the late 19th century, the Oregon was renowned for its speed and luxury, ferrying passengers along the eastern seaboard. On one fateful night, while navigating the fog-laden waters off New Jersey, the ship collided with another vessel under mysterious circumstances. Since then, divers, fishermen, and coastal explorers have reported strange phenomena near the wreck. Shadowy figures moving along the remains, unexplainable lights flickering over the wreckage, and eerie, disembodied voices that seem to echo the final moments of the lost crew. Those who dive near the Oregon often describe the unsettling sensation of encountering ghostly figures. Divers report seeing translucent sailors, sometimes engaged in routine activities like adjusting ropes or checking equipment, as though they are trapped in an eternal loop of their last duties. Some divers have claimed that the figures seem to follow them briefly before dissipating into the dark waters, creating a profound sense of being watched. Fishermen near the wreck site tell similar tales of shadows gliding along the water's surface during foggy nights, adding to the ship's reputation as a site where the dead linger. Another recurring phenomenon is the presence of strange lights moving over the wreck. Witnesses describe faint, flickering glows that appear to rise from the sunken vessel or drift along the seabed. These lights have been seen in a variety of colors, from pale white to a ghostly blue, and they often appear at night or during early morning hours when the water is still. Some divers suggest that these are reflections or bioluminescent organisms, yet the movements of the lights are inconsistent with natural explanations. On multiple occasions, lights have been observed rising and sinking in sync with what seems to be the ship's deck and superstructure. giving the impression that the vessel itself is briefly reanimated in spectral form. Eerie disembodied voices are another hallmark of the SS Oregon's haunting. Divers frequently report hearing commands, murmured conversations, or cries for help that appear to emanate from the wreck itself. Some describe the voices as echoing in distinct patterns, as if the crew were communicating while performing tasks, while others recount hearing desperate pleas that seem to come from nowhere. Occasionally, these sounds are accompanied by sudden drops in temperature, creating cold spots in the water that intensify the chilling atmosphere. Even surface observers, such as fishermen or coast guards patrolling near the wreck, have claimed to hear faint shouting or indistinct voices during calm, foggy nights, further enhancing the legend of the ship's restless spirits. The haunting seems to be strongest during periods of poor weather. Fog, rain, and stormy conditions often coincide with reported sightings of apparitions and lights, suggesting a connection between atmospheric conditions and the supernatural phenomena. Local lore holds that the spirits of the Oregon S crew are most active on the anniversary of the collision, and divers have reported more frequent encounters during these anniversaries. Some maritime historians believe that the intensity of the haunting may be tied to the violent nature of the ship sinking, with the trauma of sudden death leaving a lingering imprint upon the site. Divers and researchers exploring the wreck also report physical sensations beyond the visual and auditory, sudden, unexplained changes in water currents. Feelings of pressure or heaviness, and a sense of being watched are common experiences. Equipment failures, such as malfunctioning lights or instruments, have been documented, often occurring in close proximity to the areas where ghostly figures or lights have been seen. These incidents add to the sense that the wreck is not merely an inert structure, but a place where the past continues to exert influence, affecting the living who dare to enter its vicinity. Stories from the Oregon have been corroborated by multiple independent sources, including professional divers, maritime historians, and local residents, though skeptics often attribute the phenomena to natural occurrences such as underwater reflections, shifting tides, or bioluminescent marine life. The sheer number of consistent and overlapping accounts makes the haunting difficult to dismiss entirely. The shipwreck has become a site of fascination, drawing not only divers and ghost hunters, but also those interested in the history and tragedies of maritime travel. Some of the most vivid accounts involve divers witnessing entire sequences of ghostly activity. A diver might report seeing a sailor adjusting an unseen sail, only for the figure to vanish as they swim closer. Lights might flicker along the hull, tracing the contours of the sunken deck, while faint voices call out commands or names that cannot be explained. In other cases, fishermen have reported observing shadowy silhouettes at the surface of the water, moving in a manner consistent with the original ship's layout, only to dissolve into the waves as visibility changes. These recurring experiences suggest that the SS Oregon continues to replay fragments of its final moments, a spectral reminder of the lives lost in a single, tragic night. The SS Oregon stands as both a historical landmark and a maritime ghost story, a vessel whose legacy is shaped not only by the events of its sinking, but also by the ongoing reports of supernatural phenomena. Shadowy figures, mysterious lights, and disembodied voices create an atmosphere that is both haunting and mesmerizing, drawing the curious, the brave, and the daring to the waters off New Jersey. The wreck serves as a chilling reminder of the power of the sea, the fragility of life aboard its vessels, and the enduring presence of those lost to its depths. For those who encounter the Oregon's spectral manifestations, the experience is unforgettable, a chilling intersection of history, tragedy, and the unexplained forces that continue to linger where the ship finally rests beneath the Atlantic waves. The USS 5, a United States Navy submarine lost off the Atlantic coast in 1920, is remembered not only for its dramatic sinking, but also for the eerie tales that have followed it through the decades. The vessel, a relatively new addition to the Navy at the time, suffered a catastrophic accident during a routine dive, leaving the submarine stranded on the ocean floor. Though a few crew members survived the ordeal through a daring escape, Many perished inside, trapped beneath the crushing weight of the sea. Since that tragic event, divers and naval historians have reported a range of paranormal activities surrounding the wreck, including ghostly apparitions of crew members, phantom alarms echoing underwater, and inexplicable cold spots moving through the water. Divers approaching the S5 often describe an overwhelming sense of being watched as they descend into the depths. Many report seeing shadowy figures within the submarine's open hatches, figures that resemble sailors in period uniforms, moving about as if performing routine duties. These apparitions often vanish when directly approached, leaving divers questioning whether what they saw was real or a trick of the murky ocean light. Some witnesses claim that the figures appeared to be trapped in the same panic that overtook the crew nearly a century ago, endlessly replaying their final moments in the submarine's narrow, shadow-filled corridors. Phantom alarms are another consistent phenomenon, reported near the wreck of the S-25. Divers and naval observers have recounted hearing the submarine's bells and warning sounds echoing through the water. Despite no working electrical systems remaining on the vessel, the alarms often come in intermittent bursts, sometimes accompanied by mechanical groans that seem to echo from deep within the hull. These sounds are described as startlingly realistic, with some divers reporting that their instruments registered brief, unexplained interference or fluctuations when the phantom alarms are heard. The eerie auditory experiences contribute to the overwhelming sense that the S5 is not entirely silent in its watery grave, but rather alive with echoes of the past. In addition to visual and auditory phenomena, divers frequently report sudden cold spots surrounding the wreck. These pockets of icy water appear without warning, moving unpredictably through the diver's path. Many describe the cold as more than a simple temperature drop, claiming it carries an oppressive weight, a physical manifestation of the vessel's tragic history. The cold spots often coincide with sightings of ghostly crew members or the sounds of phantom alarms, as if the very air, or, in this case, the water has absorbed the energy of the submarine's final moments and continues to manifest it. Some divers recount that these chilling experiences can linger for hours after leaving the site, leaving a sense of unease that refuses to dissipate. Sightings of the USS S5's ghostly crew are not limited to divers alone. Local fishermen and naval patrols have occasionally reported strange activity at the surface near the wreck site. Shadowy forms have been seen through the dense fog that sometimes blankets the Atlantic coast, moving in patterns that mimic the submarine's outline. Some observers have claimed to hear muffled shouting, echoes of commands, or calls for help that seem to emanate from the depths below. The recurring nature of these reports across decades suggests that the haunting of the S5 is not merely the product of imagination, but a persistent phenomenon tied to the tragic events of 1920. Historical research provides context to these haunting accounts, explaining why the S5 has such a strong spectral presence. The submarine sank rapidly during a training exercise, catching many crew members off guard and leaving little time for organized escape. Survivors later recounted the terror of trapped sailors struggling to breathe, the water rushing in, and the panic that must have engulfed the submarine. The trauma and fear of those final moments appear to have left a lasting imprint on the site. Many paranormal investigators believe that locations of intense suffering, especially where death occurred abruptly and tragically, are prone to residual hauntings energies that replay past events without conscious awareness. In the case of the USS S5, the shadowy figures, phantom alarms, and cold spots could be manifestations of these residual energies, forever echoing the submarine's final moments beneath the Atlantic waves. Divers who explore the S5 often share consistent descriptions of its haunting features. The open hatches seem to serve as portals for the apparitions, with ghostly sailors sometimes climbing out only to vanish moments later. Sounds of metal creaking, alarms ringing, and muffled voices accompany the visual phenomena. Even without direct sighting, divers report an oppressive atmosphere inside and around the wreck, as if the submarine's energy has permeated the surrounding water. These reports, repeated independently by multiple witnesses over decades, suggest that the USS S5's haunting is persistent, and ongoing, making it one of the most mysterious submerged sites along the Atlantic coast. The haunting of the USS 5 has become a point of fascination for historians, divers, and paranormal enthusiasts alike. The combination of tragic history, eerie sightings, and unexplained phenomena creates an atmosphere that is both chilling and compelling. The submarine is a stark reminder of the dangers faced by early naval crews, the unforgiving nature of the sea, and the lingering presence of those lost to maritime disasters. For those brave enough to explore the wreck, the S5 offers not only a window into naval history, but also a glimpse of the unknown. A haunting beneath the waves, where ghostly sailors continue their eternal watch, shadowy figures in hatches, phantom alarms reverberating through the water, and chilling cold spots all attest to the tragic events of 1920 and the lasting imprint left on the site. The S5's haunting is a testament to the enduring presence of the past, a silent warning that some tragedies echo forever beneath the waves. The SS Eastland disaster is one of the most infamous maritime tragedies in American history, a calamity that continues to haunt the Chicago River more than a century later. On a summer morning in 1915, the passenger ship, Eastland, packed with hundreds of employees and their families headed to a company picnic, inexplicably rolled over while still tied to the dock. More than 800 lives were lost in minutes, making it one of the deadliest peacetime maritime accidents in U.S. history. While the physical wreckage has long since been cleared and the river has returned to its normal flow, witnesses and divers report that the haunting presence of those lost aboard Eastland persists, manifesting in ghostly figures, shadowy forms in the water, and the terrifying echo of phantom screams along the riverbanks. Visitors to the Chicago River often speak of an unsettling atmosphere near the site where Eastland capsized. The water, seemingly calm and ordinary, is said to carry a heavy, oppressive energy. Some witnesses claim to have glimpsed fleeting shapes just below the surface, figures of men, women, and children appearing in early 20th century attire, frozen in moments of panic, as if they are trapped, reliving the ship's final moments. These apparitions are described as eerily silent, yet imbued with the heavy weight of their tragic history, as if the river itself remembers the screams and chaos of that fateful day. Phantom screams are another frequent phenomenon, reported along the banks of the Chicago River near the Eastland site. Evening visitors describe hearing sudden, sharp cries that seem to come from the water, carried faintly across the breeze. The screams are often indistinct but unmistakably human, with some claiming to hear frantic shouting, the desperate calls of passengers attempting to escape the capsizing vessel. The sound is disorienting, sometimes echoing from multiple directions, as though the victims are spread throughout the river, reliving their final moments over and over. Locals who have lived near the river for decades recall occasional late-night screams, sometimes mistaken for accidents or the sounds of city traffic, only to vanish without a trace when investigated. Shadowy forms in and above the water are another hallmark of the Eastland haunting. Some divers recount passing through seemingly empty waters, only to feel the sudden presence of a figure beside or behind them, a cold sensation accompanying the sight. These encounters often leave a lingering sense of dread, as if the souls of the Eastland victims have remained bound to the river, unwilling or unable to move on. Boaters occasionally report seeing these figures for brief moments, disappearing when a camera is raised or when approached too closely, as if the river protects its ghostly inhabitants from full exposure. Historical context amplifies the eerie reputation of the Eastland site. The disaster occurred during a period when safety regulations were still developing, and the ship itself had a long history of stability issues. The overcrowding and miscalculations on the morning of the disaster turned the vessel into a floating trap, and hundreds perished almost instantly when it rolled onto its side. Accounts from survivors speak of people trapped beneath decks, clinging to railings, and attempting to escape as the water surged in. The trauma, fear, and confusion of that day appeared to have left a residual imprint, a kind of energy that manifests as ghostly sightings, phantom sounds, and unexplained sensations. Paranormal investigators suggest that tragic events, especially those involving sudden death and intense fear, can leave enduring echoes in the locations where they occurred. and the Chicago River, where the Eastland capsized, fits this profile perfectly. Sightings of the Eastland spirits are often reported alongside environmental anomalies. Divers have noted sudden cold spots beneath the water, currents that feel unnatural, and inexplicable shifts in water pressure when exploring the presumed wreck site. These phenomena often coincide with visual or auditory experiences, enhancing the sensation that the river itself is alive with the memories of the disaster. Some divers recount the sensation of being watched or followed by an unseen presence, with the water around them carrying a weight that feels almost human. Even those on the surface of the river, in boats or along the banks, report sudden chills and a pervasive sense of unease, particularly near the historical site of the capsizing. The haunting of the SS Eastland is not limited to those directly on the river. Local lore and stories passed down through generations keep the memory of the disaster alive, blending historical fact with ghostly legend. Residents often speak of seeing shadowy figures at dusk, hearing unexplained noises near the water, and sensing presences that cannot be explained. These tales serve as a reminder of the scale of the tragedy and the human lives lost, embedding the haunting deeply into the cultural memory of Chicago. Ghostly passengers glimpsed in the water, shadowy forms moving with a purpose, and the echoing screams along the riverbanks combine to create an atmosphere that is both chilling and deeply poignant. For divers, boaters, and curious onlookers, the river is more than just a waterway. It is a memorial, a repository of fear and tragedy that refuses to be forgotten. The legacy of the Eastland disaster lives on not only in historical accounts, but in the ongoing spectral presence that haunts the Chicago River to this day. The SS Eastland serves as a chilling reminder of human error, the fragile nature of life, and the enduring power of tragedy. Ghostly passengers, disembodied screams, and shadowy forms beneath the water's surface keep the memory of that fateful day alive, compelling those who encounter the site to acknowledge the sorrow and unrest that remains. Even more than a century later, the river where Eastland capsized is a place of history and haunting, a site where the living can still sense the spirits of the past moving silently just below the surface. The SS Princess Alice disaster remains one of the most haunting maritime tragedies off the coast of New Jersey. On a fateful day in 1878, the passenger steamer, crowded with men, women, and children enjoying a routine excursion, collided with another vessel and sank rapidly in the churning waters. Hundreds of passengers lost their lives in minutes, many unable to reach the lifeboats or escape the frigid sea. While the wreck itself lies submerged beneath the dark waters of the Atlantic, numerous reports over the decades have suggested that the spirits of those lost aboard Princess Alice continue to haunt the area, creating a chilling legacy that persists to this day. Divers and fishermen in the region frequently speak of an uncanny presence near the location of the wreck. Some claim to see ghostly figures emerging from the water, climbing onto phantom lifeboats that no longer exist. These apparitions are often described in vague yet disturbing detail, outlines of men and women, sometimes accompanied by children, dressed in period clothing soaked from the cold Atlantic waters. The figures are rarely fully visible, more like shadows or fleeting impressions, but their gestures are unmistakably human, as if the passengers are still attempting to save themselves, trapped in an endless loop of the ship's final moments. Witnesses say that these figures vanish when approached, leaving only the sound of rushing water and the faintest sense of movement beneath the waves. Phantom screams are a recurring phenomenon reported in the vicinity of the wreck. On calm evenings, locals along the New Jersey coast describe hearing sudden, heart-stopping cries, echoing across the waves and carried by the wind. These screams are often fragmented, disjointed, yet unmistakably human. They resemble the frantic calls of passengers trapped aboard the sinking vessel, pleading for help or calling for loved ones. Divers report that the screams sometimes appear to surround them underwater, a chorus of unseen voices that seems to come from every direction. On occasion, the sound is so intense that it prompts even the most seasoned seafarers to retreat, as though the lost souls of Princess Alice are actively reliving the panic and terror of that fateful day. Mysterious lights hovering above the water are another hallmark of the Princess Alice haunting. Fishermen and night travelers along the coast often report seeing small, flickering orbs moving just above the surface, their motion erratic and unnatural. Some claim that these lights illuminate ghostly figures on the waves or reveal the outlines of the doomed ship's structure beneath the water. Divers who have explored the wreck have described the lights as cold and spectral, sometimes darting in and out of view, appearing to lead them toward or away from specific areas of the submerged vessel. The lights are often accompanied by a feeling of unease, as if unseen eyes are observing every movement, tracking intruders into a space meant only for the dead. The tragedy of the SS Princess Alice is deeply embedded in local history, contributing to the persistent aura of fear and mystery surrounding the wreck. At the time of the sinking, safety measures were minimal, and overcrowding on board meant that the majority of passengers had little chance of survival when disaster struck. Eyewitness accounts from survivors described chaos on deck, frantic passengers leaping into the waves, and the rapid capsizing of lifeboats. Many perished without ever touching the water, trapped inside cabins or swept away by the turbulent currents. The sheer scale of loss and the suddenness of the disaster appear to have left a spectral imprint, with energy from the tragedy manifesting in ghostly sightings, phantom screams, and eerie lights observed along the New Jersey coastline. Environmental anomalies often accompany these supernatural reports. Divers describe sudden, unnatural cold spots in the water, a chilling sensation as if the ocean itself is infused with the memory of suffering. Currents sometimes shift unpredictably near the wreck, moving in ways that defy normal ocean patterns. And electronic equipment occasionally malfunctions when exploring the site. Witnesses on boats have reported a pervasive sense of being watched, a weight that presses down as though unseen eyes track their movements. Even those walking along the coast at night have recounted sudden chills, the faintest touch of a phantom hand, or the eerie sensation that someone or something is following their path. Stories of the Princess Alice haunting extend beyond personal encounters. Over the years, local lore has kept the memory of the ship alive, blending documented history with tales of restless spirits. Residents tell of shadowy figures glimpsed along the shoreline, of whispers carried on the wind, and of lights appearing inexplicably above the waves. For divers, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts alike, the site represents both a historical tragedy and a lingering enigma, a place where the past refuses to remain buried. The ship's final voyage is replayed in spectral form for those sensitive to its echoes, a chilling reminder of human fragility and the enduring power of untimely death. The haunting of SS Princess Alice is most compelling for the way it intertwines tragedy and the supernatural. Ghostly passengers, flickering lights, and phantom screams combine to create an atmosphere that is both chilling and profoundly poignant. Visitors, whether on boats, diving expeditions, or simply walking the New Jersey shore, often sense an invisible presence, a connection to the hundreds of souls lost more than a century ago. The site is more than a historical landmark. It is a space where memory, grief, and the unexplained converge, leaving a tangible impression on all who encounter it. Even over a century later, the SS Princess Alice maintains its spectral hold over the waters off New Jersey. Phantom screams, ghostly figures climbing invisible lifeboats, and eerie lights hovering above the waves ensure that the tragedy is not forgotten. The ocean has become a silent, haunting memorial, a place where the dead remain restless, and the living are left to wonder whether the spirits of Princess Alice will ever find peace. The site serves as a chilling reminder of sudden loss, the fragility of life, and the enduring nature of unresolved tragedy, ensuring that the memory of the ill-fated steamer continues to haunt the Atlantic waters to this day. The USS Maine, a battleship of the United States Navy, holds a dark and tragic place in history. Over a century later, the wreck of the Maine still rests beneath the harbor waters, and divers, historians, and maritime observers alike have reported unsettling phenomena around the site. The tragedy left a lingering impression, and many believe that the spirits of the sailors lost in the explosion continue to haunt the waters where their lives ended so abruptly. Divers exploring the submerged remains of the Maine frequently describe ghostly apparitions of sailors on deck, as though the crew never left their posts. Some report shadowy figures moving silently along the gun turrets or appearing to peer over railings, their expressions unreadable but deeply sorrowful. These figures often vanish when approached, leaving only a sudden chill and the faint impression of movement. In foggy or murky conditions, the outlines of these apparitions are more distinct, with divers swearing that the ghosts seem to replay the final moments before the ship's catastrophic explosion, eternally frozen in a cycle of sudden panic and chaos. Phantom explosions are another common phenomenon associated with the USS Maine wreck. Witnesses have reported hearing muffled booms or thuds beneath the water, sounds that echo through the hull and surrounding sea, as if the ship itself were reliving its destructive end. These explosions are sudden and without source, and equipment used in diving operations often registers unusual disturbances, coinciding with the sounds. Some divers claim that the phantom booms are accompanied by flashes of light beneath the water's surface, glowing like the sudden flare of an actual detonation. The experience is disorienting and terrifying, leaving those nearby with a sense of having witnessed the ship's final, tragic moments repeated in spectral form. Shadowy figures on the deck are another hallmark of the Maine's haunting. Divers and sailors report seeing fleeting silhouettes standing at gun mounts, walking across the deck, or leaning against railings in silent observation. These figures are most often seen in low light or when fog drifts across the water, creating an eerie, almost dreamlike scene. Some witnesses describe the sensation of being watched even when no one else is present, as if the spirits of the lost crew are aware of intruders in their watery resting place. The figures do not communicate directly, but their presence is palpable, giving the impression that the Maine remains alive in a ghostly echo of its past. Environmental anomalies often accompany these supernatural sightings. Divers note sudden cold spots that appear without explanation, chills moving through the water even on warm days. Currents behaved unpredictably near the wreck, sometimes drawing divers toward the ship as if an unseen force is guiding them. Magnetic compasses and other electronic equipment occasionally malfunction, registering erratic readings or shutting down entirely. These disturbances add to the sense of unease, suggesting that the wreck of the Maine carries not just the memories of its lost crew, but a residual energy that continues to affect its surroundings. The history of the Maine contributes to the enduring mystique of its haunting. At the time of the explosion, the cause of the disaster was never definitively determined, fueling speculation and conspiracy for decades. Some blamed a Spanish mine, others an accidental internal explosion, but regardless of the explanation, nearly 300 men perished in an instant. Eyewitness accounts from survivors describe frantic moments of smoke and fire, sailors attempting to rescue comrades, and the sudden collapse of sections of the ship. The abruptness of the tragedy, combined with the uncertainty surrounding its cause, seems to have left a lingering spiritual imprint, manifesting in the phantom sailors' unexplained sounds and eerie presences reported over the years. Divers recount the emotional intensity of exploring the wreck. Some describe a profound sense of sorrow, as though the spirits of the sailors are reliving the trauma of their final moments. Others report feeling watched or followed, even when alone in the water. And many have experienced fleeting visions of hands reaching out from the deck or ghostly faces emerging from the hull. The combination of visual, auditory, and tactile phenomena creates a powerful, immersive experience, one that leaves even experienced sailors unsettled and cautious when approaching the site. The haunting of the USS Maine is not limited to the water alone. Onshore, visitors to Havana Harbor have reported seeing ghostly masts or the faint outlines of a ship that disappears when approached. Some have claimed to hear muffled shouting or cries carried by the wind, reminiscent of the chaos during the ship's final moments. These manifestations suggest that the spectral imprint of the Maine extends beyond the physical wreckage, permeating the harbor and lingering in the collective memory of those who dwell near or visit the site. The USS Maine serves as a chilling reminder of human vulnerability and the unpredictable nature of disaster. Ghostly sailors, phantom explosions, and shadowy deck figures combine to create a haunting tableau that keeps the memory of the tragedy alive in spectral form. Divers, naval historians, and casual observers alike continue to report encounters that defy rational explanation, suggesting that the spirits of the lost crew have not yet moved on. Even more than a century later, the USS Maine remains a powerful symbol of sacrifice and unresolved loss. The ghostly apparitions, phantom explosions, and strange phenomena surrounding the wreck serve as a haunting testament to those who perished, preserving their presence in the waters of Havana Harbor. For anyone approaching the site, the Maine is more than just a historical artifact. It is a lingering echo of tragedy, a place where the dead seem to walk among the living, replaying the moments of their untimely end and leaving an indelible mark on the living who witnessed the remnants of history. The sea is a graveyard of stories, tragedies, and restless souls. These 25 haunted shipwrecks off the U.S. coast remind us that the ocean never forgets. Ghostly sailors, phantom passengers, and mysterious lights linger beneath the waves, preserving the stories of those who never returned. Thank you for joining us on this chilling voyage through America's haunted waters. Subscribe, like, and click the bell to continue exploring the hidden places where history, mystery, and the paranormal converged, where the spirits of the past never truly leave.